Hey y'all, sorry about that. So we were having some type of technical difficulties this morning or whatnot with the sound and the music and stuff like that. So I just skipped past it. It's okay. We'll listen to the song during the song break. But we're gonna go ahead and jump right into the content, y'all. So I will start from the beginning, and I'm sorry if you heard this already. Well, I gotta read it back again because it's the intro to my video. So anyway, y'all, good afternoon. It is 1:35 p.m. here Eastern Time in the United States in the Carolinas. Like I said, the weather outside is pretty decent. It's not too cold and there's a little bit of sun shining, so it's a pretty decent day. And like I said previously, I am child free, y'all, for the weekend because my son is with his dad. So, it gives me a little bit more quiet time behind the scenes when I'm doing some of my lives and things like that. Because got the little pitter patter feet and the little small voice running around in the background. Even though I miss him like so bad when he's not here, but the break is nice. Anyway, y'all, I hope you guys are having a great Saturday in whatever respectful time zone you are in, whether that is morning, afternoon, evening, or night. I hope you're having a great day and having a good weekend. We do have to get into some political topics, y'all, and some serious political topics. Not that all of them are not serious, but this one is a heavy one because right now we are witnessing a historic and a somber turning point for our world. President Donald Trump has officially confirmed that the United States, in direct coordination with Israel, has launched major combat operations against the Islamic Republic of Iran. In a recent address to the nation, the president labeled this campaign Operation Epic Fury. He described it as a noble mission designed to permanently dismantle Iran's nuclear capabilities and missile infrastructure. Most significantly, the president issued a chilling ultimatum to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard: surrender immediately with the promise of immunity or face certain unaliving, aka death. He has explicitly called for the Iranian people to seize their destiny, signaling the ultimatum goal is a regime change. But there was also a counterstrike, a regional retaliation. The response from Tehran was almost instantaneous. Under the banner of Operation Truthful Promise 4, Iran has launched a massive wave of drones and missiles that have been targeting U.S. and allied installations across the Persian Gulf. We have, and news reporters have, confirmed reports that explosions at the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, as well as I can't pronounce it, Udeid Air Base in Qatar, and Al Dhafra in the UAE. While many projectiles were intercepted by advanced defense systems, the regional spillover is undeniable. The skies over the Middle East are effectively closed. This is no longer a localized strike. We are witnessing a regional conflagration. So, let's talk about diplomacy and human tragedy. On the diplomatic front, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Agrashi has slammed these strikes as a war of choice and a mission impossible, claiming that Iran's leadership remains intact and defiant despite the heavy bombardment. But the most heartbreaking update, honestly for me, comes from the southern part of Iran. State-run media and Reuters are reporting a devastating strike on an elementary girls' school in the city of Minab. Initial reports suggest over 40 children have lost their lives. Regardless of political stance, this is a staggering humanitarian tragedy. It serves as a haunting reminder of the true cost of intensity warfare and the innocent lives caught in the crossfire. So I'm going to go ahead, per usual, y'all. And we're going to see some of these reports about exactly what is going on when it comes to these attacks. But I wouldn't call them attacks. What I call this is war. Nothing more, nothing less. And so when we're faced with those type of things, we have to take it for what it really is. Okay. And so let's go ahead and get into this first report, which is a news report coming from, yes, Fox News, but you know, we try to keep it fair over here. So we play a little bit of each major news outlet to get a little bit of the story. And each news outlet you play, a lot of times you get a little bit of difference within each story. So let's go ahead and get into this first one. U.S. and Israel launched military strikes on Iran, from Fox News. Let's watch this together and I'll meet y'all in the chat. I'm also going to go ahead and put up my banners here for trigger warning. And I want to tell you guys verbally from my own mouth that yes, this is extreme trigger warning. Anytime we're dealing with war or violence, it is a very extreme trigger warning. And so I just want to give y'all that disclaimer before we get started. This is not something that I really wanted to present to the people, but it's something that we need to know is going on within our world and our countries. So let's go ahead and get into it, y'all. Trigger warning and viewer discretion is advised.
Experts around the clock to get all of the latest information and get their take on everything. I want to bring in Enya Kervine with the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. She is a good friend of the show, joining us now live. Enya, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Josh, it's always great to see you, though they're usually in difficult circumstances.
Most definitely. And I wanted to ask what the situation is like on the ground right now. We know that folks are running into their shelters, they're having to leave. So can you kind of break down the situation for me?
Sure. And Josh, before we do that, if you'll allow me, we are in a hot conflict. I'm based in Israel, and my little sort of home studio is in my shelter. So if there is an alert, you'll see my family filing in. This isn't their first rodeo. They'll take a seat and we'll continue.
Well,
So
you better go to the shelter if any sirens blare. I won't let you keep talking.
We're in the shelter. This is the shelter.
Gotcha.
You're joining me in my shelter, but my children may also join. So just as a heads up, but we've done this before. They know the drill, and they know that this is what mom does when we're at war sometimes here. So the day started at 8:15 with a siren that was nationwide, and essentially everyone receives an alert on their phone that says, "Okay, we've preemptively attacked Iran, and you need to make sure that you know where the nearest shelter is for the coming hours." And then there was a series of alerts in my area. Of course, the alerts are specific to region. So I'm further north, closer to Haifa. We had a very intense period from about 10 a.m. till about noon, and we've had a little bit of quiet since then. But I've been watching reports as other parts of the country, especially Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, have been under pretty consistent attacks since this morning.
And you kind of mentioned this, but if you think about it, you are almost used to this. This has become a way of life. Obviously, right now, it's probably a little bit more intense considering all of this is unfolding between the U.S. and Israel versus Iran. But this is almost a way of life.
Israelis have become used to it. Since October 7th, every single family has developed their own coping mechanisms. Everyone understands where the shelter is. The children know that what to do in case of a siren, whether they're in the house or out and about by themselves. So yes, they're very resilient people, and this has been the reality for 2 years. Of course, when the conflict becomes hot with Iran, this is the fourth round now that Israel has gone with Iran, it does up the ante because, as you know, Josh, from our previous conversations, their missiles and warheads are just much bigger payloads. So when something is going on with Iran, people are extra cautious. They want to stay much closer to shelters and they want to know where their loved ones are.
And this is some of the video from earlier on this morning. Obviously, you can't hear it, but there are sirens that are blaring. And that's been, as we mentioned, kind of the situation that's been taking place throughout the morning. Now, as far as the mission itself, I've asked this of a lot of people, but what do you make of the fact that the U.S. and Israel worked on this together? They made sure that this happened together in a joint military operation.
So that's no surprise to me, as since the beginning, since Donald Trump took office, all of these proactive military operations by Israel have been hand in glove with the Americans, either through close coordination or in some instances we saw last June in the 12-day war, it was with the U.S. actually operating, the U.S. military operating with the Israeli military when the U.S. took out the nuclear sites. What's very interesting about what's happening now, Josh, and this is a historic moment, is that because Iran has lashed out at assets all over the region, including in Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia as well. All of these places have now received fire from Iran as a result of this war and retaliation for the US and Israeli operation. Now the tone is very different and super interesting from the Gulf countries and the other Arab allies of the US. And they are taking on a tone, instead of being diplomatic and trying to de-escalate and wanting to stay out of it, it looks like they may also get into this war as well. So that is the new thing here. That is what we're seeing for the first time, and that could really change things on the ground. You heard my alarm there. Right now, that's just a warning. There's no siren here yet, but again, that could change.
Would you say that this was a long time coming? That's been something that folks have been talking about. They said the current Iranian regime needs to be taken down. Ali Khamenei needs to be taken out of power. That's been a sentiment that's been shared by the Iranian civilians as well. So was this essentially a long time coming?
It's been coming for decades, Josh. I mean, as you know, the Iranian Revolution involved taking over 200 Americans hostage and holding them in the US embassy. And I think that the clock started ticking then. It just took a leader like Donald Trump who said to say enough is enough. And what's interesting is about 6 weeks ago, almost 2 months ago, when the Iranian people, the brave Iranian people, were demonstrating in the streets against the regime, and the regime slaughtered unknown thousands. We may never know exactly how many Iranians were killed by the regime during those demonstrations. Donald Trump said on camera to the Iranian people, he said, help is on its way. And this was a huge shot in the arm to Iranians. This encouraged them so much, but then the help never came. And here we are 2 months later, and people were assuming that that had been an empty threat and that Donald Trump had essentially drawn a red line that he wouldn't enforce. He said if the regime continued with the executions, the US would actually send troops to help the Iranian people, and then he didn't for 2 months. However, the whole time he was sending assets to the region, and he was trying to get the Iranians back into some sort of negotiations where he could reach a deal. Those negotiations happened last week. He did not like the results. They were set to continue on Monday, but it looks like he had decided to finally enforce that red line, to finally send the Iranian people the help that he had promised during the height of their demonstrations.
One thing that's interesting, you talked about those talks on Monday. We were initially told that Secretary of State Marco Rubio was going to travel over to Israel this weekend, specifically today, to meet with Netanyahu. And then that was pushed back to Monday or sometime later in the week, this coming week. Do you think that was maybe a distraction? Because I have to imagine it's going to be tough for Rubio to travel over to Israel as all of this is going on. Do you think that was some kind of distraction?
So it could well have been. We've seen these distractions, these red herrings from Trump in the past. We know he likes to exercise the element of surprise, but you got to give the guy credit. I mean, he has been amassing troops in the region for the past 6 weeks to 2 months. This is the biggest force buildup since the Iraq War that the U.S. has had in the Middle East. And yet, even with all of these assets in place, even with slowly bringing down personnel from the region, even with only on Friday the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem telling their non-essential personnel to leave the country, it was still somehow a surprise attack. I mean, you got to give it to this guy. He really knows how to play his cards, and he really knows how to enforce his red lines.
And Praveen, I appreciate it as always. Of course, there's so much going on here and we're piecing it together. We have some limited information. There's stuff that we don't know just yet. I want to pop this up on your screen. This is coming in from the Is that an alert?
That's another alert.
Do you need to go?
No, I'm in my bomb shelter. I am safe. And I just heard my children go to our neighbor's house. Their dad is home. So it looks like they're scooting over there. We can continue.
I'm going to keep asking you that because I want to make sure that you stay safe.
You're so kind.
Well, the Israel Defense Forces just posting here, they have some video and they said struck operatives from the Iranian regime's surface-to-surface missiles unit as they loaded a missile launcher and prepared to immediately launch toward Israel. The threat was identified and quickly struck, preventing the launch aimed toward Israel. And as I mentioned, we do actually have some of the video that's coming in from the Israel Defense Forces showing as it's all playing out. Wanted to get your take because I'm sure at some point the U.S. is going to release some video of some kind as well. The fact that this video is released and allows people to kind of get a taste of what happened there and a look at kind of how it played out. What does that say to you overall? What do you take away from this video here?
So I think the Israelis want to communicate with the people how important and how cutting edge their technology is and the type of technological superiority that they have in the region. The fact that they're able to video these potential strikes as they're happening and eliminate them on the ground in Iran, which is thousands of miles away, is really astounding. And I think what it's saying to the nation is reinforcing confidence and superiority, which is what you want to hear when your loved ones are serving, when your cities are under attack, and when you're cowering in a shelter on the Sabbath. You want to hear from the IDF that they know what they're doing, that this is planned out, and that they're gonna win this confrontation.
And of course, we're waiting to see what the next step is. This could last, we're told, hours. It could last days. It's unclear. All of that kind of up in the air. Enya Praveen, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, helping to break down all of the latest information here. Anything that we missed or anything that you want to make sure we mention here before I let you go?
Well, one of the things that I've been thinking about is what's going on in Donald Trump's mind. You have him making statements like, we want to see a surrender. And it would be truly an astounding thing to see this regime surrender. This is a regime that has been firmly in place since 1979. This is a regime that has wreaked just untold havoc. There was a new report just recently that said that the number of U.S. soldiers who were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan, that a large percent of them, larger than we even thought before, were at the hands of Iranian weapons and militias. So just the fact of what a moment we're living through now, and just the fact that with all of these months of preparation, Trump still managed to get the element of surprise. It truly is astounding.
Yeah, no leaks, nothing like that kind of gave this away. A lot of us woke up in the middle of the night and heard that it was happening. Of course, it was a little later where you are. Enya, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Please stay safe.
Thank you, Josh. I will.
All right, y'all. So now we're going to move ahead on with the next video. And we'll be hearing from ABC News, which also has been reporting on what is going on as well. So yes, most of these videos will be reports from different local news stations, but I think it's important for us to hear from each and every one, sometimes getting additional and different information off of each one as we listen as to what is going on. And then we will have our thoughts and feelings and opinions to speak on about this as well. We also will have one of our favorites over here, Ben Masilis, will be playing a little bit of what he had to say as far as his reporting on what is happening. We will give our thoughts and feelings and opinions on it. And Mama Warrior has created a special prayer as well that she will be giving at the end of the live when it comes to this, because we know war is scary. We know war is not supposed to happen, but it does. Um, and when it happens, it affects us all. And so we have to make sure that we're staying prayed up. We have to make sure that we're staying hopeful and we're keeping our heads above the water, because we cannot let these things destroy us. We cannot allow these things to tear us down or break us down. Even though they are things that are happening, we still have to keep hope alive that tomorrow will be brighter than today. And so we have a little bit of all of that we're going to share for y'all and give to y'all on this live today. But it's stuff that needs to be talked about. And again, when I meet y'all in the chat, please feel welcome to come in. Please feel welcome to leave messages or comments in the chat. And we will chat back and forth with you as we are listening and watching these videos together. Even if it's some things that you've already saw, we all have our thoughts and feelings and opinions on it. And I think it's important for us to talk about. And so that's what we like to do over here, have the hard conversations and address some of the hard issues head on, because it's the only way you can do it. You can't just close your eyes or click your heels 3 times and make it go away. It doesn't work or operate like that. It's here, it's happening, and it's real. And we as the people get to decide how we maneuver throughout these trying times as they are happening. And so we educate, we motivate, and we come together as individuals to realize that we're going to get through this. And Mama Warrior has some things to say as well.
Hello, everyone. It's Mama Warrior. I just had one point to point out. This is why I always say we don't have time for personal attacks on each other. We've got so much in the plate of our world right now that we need to focus on love and togetherness and joining together. All these personal attacks toward each other, we don't have time for that. The world is in an uproar, and we need to be focused on that and trying to find our peace and tranquility through all this. And we need each other for that. We don't have time to fight one another. And I just wanted to add that to a thought for us right now, So
I mean, life do be lifing and things do be going on.
Yeah.
But on the grand scale of things, the things that are happening within our governmental structures and systems are things that will affect us in very major ways. And I think, it probably would be a better time spent focusing on that, how you can fix it, how you can change it, how you can acknowledge it and learn and be educated from it, right? So when these things are happening, we have a better chance of fighting against it and surviving towards it, because it will be a huge effect on each and every individual when these type of things happen. And I think we can spend our time talking about that and focusing on that. Not that we want to depress ourselves with it and, over engage ourselves with it, but we at least have to be aware of what's going on and not be distracted by maybe other things that may not just be as important. But I do get some life things people are going through are important to them, and it's things that they want to talk about or they want to express. And I get that. But I'm telling you, on the grand scale of things, outside of what we got going on, and maybe the reason why we have things going on in our personal lives the way we do is because a lot of the structure, the governmental structure that we have in our different countries and areas that we live in. And so I do believe it's important for us to talk about these things, pay attention to these things, and understand and actually have the knowledge and the know-it-all as to what is happening and how it affects us in our everyday lives. So anyway, y'all, let's move on to our next video here. Again, like I said, this one is going to be now from ABC News. So let's hear from them. We will meet y'all in the chat. We'll be right back.
and the U.S.
That's right, Michelle. Just moments ago, the president made a post on social media. It was a video. He announced that a short time ago, the U.S. began major combat operations in Iran. As you heard Ian mention there, the president said the objective is to defend American people, to eliminate imminent threats from the Iranian regime, calling the regime a, quote, vicious group of people, going on to say that its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. Now, this comes as the region has been on edge for weeks. The president, we have heard him over the last few weeks repeatedly threaten military strikes against Iran if its leaders did not agree to its demands, including reining in its nuclear program. At the same time, we have seen the U.S. build up this massive force in the region as we were waiting for potential action from the president. Now, we also know that these diplomatic talks have been ongoing, but as of last night, the president expressed his dissatisfaction with the state of negotiations, saying that they need to make a deal and they don't want to go far enough. But the president, throughout the last few weeks, has been stressing that he wants to see diplomacy here. Just yesterday, he said they hadn't made a final decision, but he wasn't happy with the state of negotiations. But again, this also comes as, you know, we have been waiting for the president to explain clearly to the American people about what his ultimate objective is. Is this about the nuclear deal? Is this about the ballistic missile program? Is this about regime change?
Selena Wang joining us from D.C. Thank you very much. And we want to go to Martha Raddatz, and who can explain. She has covered the region for years in that region. Martha, tell us the latest of what you're learning.
Well, what we know now, this joint strike between the Israelis and the U.S. is that U.S. strikes involve a mix of U.S. aircraft and Tomahawk cruise missiles fired by U.S. Navy ships in the region. So this is a large-scale attack. This is not, it does not appear to be this limited strike, one of those options that President Trump was given, and that option involved making a preemptive strike to bring the Iranians to the table and be on the side of what the U.S. wanted. But clearly those negotiations have really already broken down. I'm certain that the Iranians expected this. They knew those negotiations had essentially broken down. They knew from President Trump's public statements that he was not happy with where the negotiations were going. So this does, as Ian said, appear to be a larger scale strike that will probably last several days, if not weeks. There is one statement that the president made on that Truth Social video, and it was an angry posting, said, "We aren't going to take this anymore." The president said, and it's an extraordinary statement, "The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost and we may have casualties. That often happens in war, but we're doing this not for now, but we're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission." This is the first time we have heard the president say anything about this to the American people, to give this kind of warning to the American people. He has simply said that the U.S. will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, but he has not prepared the U.S. public or Congress for what may happen here. Again, the statement, "The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost and we may have casualties. That often happens in war," said the president, "but we're doing this not for now, but we're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission." Again, a reminder that just this week in the State of the Union, the president had said that the nuclear program was obliterated in the U.S. strikes last June. That is clearly not what the U.S. believes anymore. They believe that the Iranians are capable of building a nuclear weapon, and they are trying to stop that from happening. A reminder also that this was a president who came into office as America first. He did not want to involve the U.S. in wars, but so far these are the third strikes that the president has made since just being in office.
And Martha, Iran has definitely also talked about how it would respond if there were any strikes that were made again. We want to go to ABC News analyst and retired Colonel Steve Ganyard. Steve, with Israel making that first strike and along with the U.S. now entering that, what it calls that U.S. joint strike, and with the president's sobering message about U.S. troops. What does that signal to you in terms of the military buildup there, of how long this could last?
Yeah, Michelle, if you remember in Midnight Hammer, the previous attack on Iran, it was actually fairly low risk. We put lots of airplanes over Iran to make sure that the B-2s successfully get to their targets, and hitting the nuclear sites. Now, this seems to be much more widespread. We're getting preliminary reports of what appears to be decapitation strikes within Tehran, going after the leadership in Tehran, going after not only the theocracy, but the military leadership in Tehran. But there's also many strikes around the country that look like they're targeting missile sites. This has been the real worry about the ability of Iran to go back and retaliate against Israel and all of the U.S. allies within the Gulf. So the other concern besides nuclear sites and the leadership sites have been the ability for the Iranians to strike our allies and Israel with missile retaliation strikes.
And Steve, as Americans are joining us tonight across the country watching this unfold, we're seeing video from Tehran where Israel and the U.S. have entered into joint strikes targeting sections of Tehran. We don't know exactly what their targets are at this time, but what should Americans take away from this? We have a huge military presence across the region there, some 35,000 spread out. What does this mean for American families here watching? Everyone has a loved one who's in the military or knows somebody who is.
Yeah, the U.S. military has gone to great lengths in the past few days to make sure that any U.S. troops within the region that were vulnerable have been moved out of the region. So most of the aircraft we have there are to defend our allies in Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia. We've flown in lots of anti-aircraft capability to bring down missiles and aircraft that might come in a retaliatory strike. So the U.S. has done a lot to lower their footprint within the region to take away any potential retaliatory targets that the Iranians may look to take down in the hours and days to come. I think the real point here in what the president was saying is that this is going to be a long-term effort, and this isn't just a pinprick. They're going after missile sites, they're going after nuclear sites. The president did mention naval sites, so down in the Strait of Hormuz, way down in the southern part of Iran. You have a very narrow channel where about 20% of the world's petroleum goes through every day. And so the Iranian Navy has had the ability to close that, which would have repercussions for markets and economies around the world if you took that much oil off the market. So the U.S. is hitting things that Iran could do to affect the rest of the world, which include nuclear sites, missile sites, the Navy that may be able to close the very strategic waterways that could affect the rest of the global economy. So a very interesting target set, much more in detail and much more widespread than we'd seen in previous strikes.
And Steve, I want to ask you, this is probably the biggest buildup in several decades. How does this compare to the Gulf War buildup?
Yeah, it's smaller just because the U.S. military is smaller since the Gulf War, but almost, Michelle, half of the deployable air assets that the United States has have been moved into the region. So a lot of air power in the region. The interesting part about this strike is that most of that air power has not been allowed to launch from bases in the region. So in UAE and Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, they've said that you can't launch your aircraft from our bases to go after Iran. So much of what's happening now is coming off the USS. The two aircraft carriers in the region, one's in the Persian Gulf, or south of the Persian Gulf in the Indian Ocean. One is in the Mediterranean. So naval power, lots of cruise missiles. They are launched either from submarines or from destroyers. And so this is, at this point, a lot of standoff missiles. We're seeing some very interesting video of cruise missiles coming across Iraq. So these very low-level flying aircraft or missiles coming across and hitting various targets within Tehran. That's another part of this. This is very quite interesting. It's the first time in memory that that the U.S. has conducted a daylight raid in the region. Usually, the cover of darkness is used to make sure that the Israelis or wherever it may be, or the Iranians wherever it may be, cannot see those missiles as they're incoming. So very unusual in many ways. It's also unusual. It's the first time that the U.S. has jointly and publicly said we're conducting strikes with the Israelis. In the past, it's always been a coordination, but a quiet coordination. But this is very public. This is a joint U.S.-Israeli effort, and it is targeted at the regime. The president has said, we want to change the regime. Another thought here is, does this mean that people are going to rise up in the streets, or is it just the U.S. and the Israelis are going to take down leadership and hope that the Iranian people overthrow what's left of the regime?
Steve, we know that there's been protests there in the last few months, and of course the regime had cracked down deadly protests by any accounts. A U.S.-based human rights group says thousands of Iranian demonstrators were killed during that time. I want to ask you again how this compares just in the last year with the June strikes, where the president said that they obliterated some of the nuclear sites in Iran. We're here now, though, and the talks had failed, the 3 rounds of talks between the U.S. and Iranian delegations. How is it different of what the military is doing now with Israel than how it compared with June?
Michelle, I think we need to wait for a little bit more time until we can figure out what the actual what the U.S. has actually done. In the previous strike in Midnight Hammer, we flew B-2s over Iran. We flew F-22s, F-35s. There were U.S. aircraft all over those, all over Iran, and hitting nuclear targets in Iran. So one of the things that we'll look to see today is where else has the U.S. been flying? We know that they're probably, given the number of cities where we're seeing explosions, we know that many more targets have been hit, a much more wider variety of targets have been hit, to include 6 or 7 different cities. Now, it doesn't mean that the U.S. is hitting the cities. It means that they're hitting, say, missile bases in those cities. So very different, at least in terms of the scale. Previously in Midnight Hammer and the previous strikes, the president was very clear. It was going to be one and done, sort of get in, get out. B-2s will hit the nuclear sites. We launched a bunch of cruise missiles. This sounds like it's going to be a weeks-long campaign.
And that's exactly what Martha Raddatz had alluded to, too, with what the president is saying. And Steve Gagner, thank you very much. We do want to take you to Florida, to Mar-a-Lago, and we're going to catch President Trump speaking, and we're going to take him in progress.
People. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or in the alternative, face certain death. So lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
You've been listening to President Trump speaking from Mar-a-Lago about the U.S. joint strikes with Israel in Tehran. Those strikes occurring in the past 2 hours. If you're joining us, the president laying out the foundation of a possibly prolonged war in the region. Let's go to ABC's Martha Raddatz with reaction. Martha.
That was an extraordinary statement. It is clear we are not doing limited strikes. This could last. We do not know how long, but the U.S. is now at war with Iran.
After 4 decades, the president said, reacting to everything that's happened from the hostages taken back in the 1970s, also leading up to the recent protests in Iran. Steve Ganyard joins us again. Steve, give us an idea. He also had a message, the president did, for those in Iran.
Yeah, Michelle, I think what's interesting here is that the initial strikes that we saw were cruise missiles. So because it's daylight, we'll have to see what happened. But I don't think that the U.S. would have put U.S. aircraft over Iran during daylight hours. Just makes it too easy for the Iranians to get a lucky shot here or there. So we'll need to watch where the targets were. We do know that many missile sites have been hit. It appears perhaps that one of the nuclear energy, the civil nuclear sites down in Bashir, down on the Persian Gulf may have been hit. Will be interesting to see if some of the naval bases around the Strait of Hormuz were hit. But the president made it very clear. This is a decapitation effort. It's a regime change effort. And the whole point here is for the Iranian people to rise up and to overthrow the theocracy that has run that country for decades.
ABC's Stephen Ganyard. We want to leave you with Ian Pannell's thoughts from Tel Aviv. He's there. Ian, you're under a state of emergency, as well as all Israelis in that area waiting for retaliatory possible strikes.
Yeah, that's right. State of emergency declared. Looking around here, the streets are completely empty. People are hunkered down at home, fearing the worst. They've been through this before, but nobody knows how long this is going to go on. I think one of the most remarkable things in the president's statement was his encouragement to the Iranian people to rise up. In other words, this is an entirely maximalist strategy here. This isn't just about dealing with Iran's nuclear program, which was what the operation was last June. It's not just about dealing with the amount of enriched uranium it's got. This seems to be about regime change. And therein, it doesn't seem to have a finite length. We don't know how long this will last, how you'll measure success. The regime certainly isn't going to go quietly. And I think, as Martha and Steve have said, I think we're in for the long haul.
ABC's Ian Pannell in Tel Aviv. We will be keeping in touch with you and keeping up on all the events that are taking place. We'll have a lot more on Good Morning America later this morning. I'm Michelle Franzen in New York.
All right, y'all. So that was a second report, and that was coming from a different major news network. And as you can see, when we play these different news networks, we get a lot of different information, but we also get additional information as to what is going on as well. And so for the next video we're going to play after we take a quick song break, we'll be getting into some more information as well. Now, there also has been reports that as of this afternoon, there is a massive amount of conflicting information that's coming out regarding the supreme leader. This is a breakdown of what has been reported on, okay? So while Israeli media, Channel 12, is reporting growing indications that the 86-year-old supreme leader may have been unalived or severely injured in some of these strikes on the Tehran compound, the Iranian government has officially denied these reports. Foreign Ministers Abbas Agrashi stated live on NBC News that Khamenei, I don't think I'm saying Khamenei, Khamenei is alive as far as they know, and that the regime is handling the situation. Okay, so we have the proof versus the allegations, because we know that there's a lot of fake news, and no, I'm not Trump, but we know that sometimes, you know, there is news that comes out that is not always accurate or true, and we can run with it and we can stand on it, and that's not the appropriate thing to do. We need to make sure we have the actual facts and the real truth as to what's going on. So when it comes to the strike, it says that satellite imagery confirms that Khamenei's compound in Tehran was heavily damaged or destroyed during the initial wave of Operation Epic Fury, the attacks and the strikes from the United States to Iran. The secure locations, multiple sources, including Reuters and the Jerusalem Post, report that Khamenei was transferred to a secure location to be safe outside of Tehran, shortly becoming before the strikes began. There are also fleeing rumors. There are unconfirmed intelligence reports, previously dubbed Plan B, suggesting a potential escape route to Moscow for the supreme leader and his inner circle if the regime faces total collapse, though there is no visual proof of him leaving the country yet. And we also have the pending arrest. So Iranian state media, Al-Alam TV, has claimed that the supreme leader will deliver an address within minutes, though some experts suggest this could be a pre-recorded video used to project stability. So we have to, you know, be careful with some of these reports and stuff that we show and we share and we talk about, because we can't always be sure that they are true. So now we turn to questions that everyone is asking. Where is this said supreme leader? There are intense, unconfirmed reports circulating right now. Israeli sources are suggesting that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has been unalived or seriously wounded when his compound in Tehran was flattened earlier today or struck earlier today. However, I want to urge caution. Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi has pushed back, stating that the leadership is actually alive and handling the situation. What we do know is that the compound was hit, and satellite photos show significant destruction to said compound. Sources say that the 86-year-old leader was moved to a bunker or a secure location outside of the capital before the missiles arrived. There is also talk of this said Plan B, rumors of high-ranking officials preparing to flee to Moscow, but that remains unverified. We are waiting on a promised address from the supreme leader, whether it is live or pre-recorded, and that will tell us a lot about the true state of the Iranian government leader. But for now, the world waits in the balance when it comes to us, you know, wondering or having any type of thoughts or feelings or suspicions as to which, if this leader, the Iranian leader, is with us still or no longer with us at the hands of some of these strikes and attacks that have been made. Okay, so, you know, there's that. And we do have more reports to get into as well. But before we get into those reports, we're going to go ahead and take a quick song break. After this song break, we're going to get into our next major news reporting station, which is NBC News, that also has done a full interview. And we have Iranian foreign minister is reacting to the U.S. and the Israeli strikes in Iran. So we will get into that in just a moment, y'all. After this song break, we will be right back. And I am so sorry for mispronunciating some of the names. Like I said, they're foreign names. They're not very common to me. So I don't know how to pronounce them all the time the right way. So I really do appreciate, I apologize for pronouncing things the wrong way. I appreciate y'all for not laughing at me, but maybe you are laughing, but that's okay. But I don't want to be disrespectful by mispronouncing someone's name when it comes to these certain things. So I do apologize for that. But some of these names are really hard to pronounce. So I apologize. Anyway, y'all, let's get into this song break and I will be right back.
Check the pulse of the nation, feel a tremor in the ground. Another hollow promise, another hateful sound. The burner phones are buzzing, the leaked DMs exposed. The country club whispers about the people in their robes. They smiling for the cameras, preaching unity and grace. We're drafting legislation to keep you in your place. The dog whistles the sirens, now the hoods are in the open. Igniting tiki torch shadows, leaving spirits broken. They wanna turn the clock back to a time of guilt and pain, where progress is a dirty word and fear is how they reign. But every soul they try to crush just learn to stand up straighter. This ain't a game of politics, this is gladiator. Enough is enough. The whispers turn into the heat. My fist is getting shut up. Enough is enough. We're the people at the table filling up our cup. This ain't about a party, the lines are clearly drawn. It's the light against the darkness that's coming for the dawn. Holy versus evil is the truth against the lie. We ain't backing down with a fire in the sky. They coming for the libraries, wanna burn away the facts. Erase the bloody chapter so you can't see the tracks. They gerrymandering the district, drawing every map. Your vote is just an echo caught inside the power trap. They purging names from voter rolls and calling it secure, while scream about election fraud to keep their motives pure. They wanna legislate the scars upon a woman's soul, and own the very choices that were never theirs. Control from the classroom to the courthouse, a calculated scheme to suffocate the promise of the American dream. But they forgot the dream was dreamed by rebels and by slaves, and their spirit is the very ground that trembles in their graves. Enough is enough. We're the people at the table filling up our cup. This ain't about a party, the lines are clearly drawn. It's the light against the darkness that's coming for the dawn. Holy versus evil is the truth against the lie. We ain't backing down in the sky. They call this politics, they call it policy, they call it survival, we call it tyranny. They stand on podiums with a Bible in their hand, but don't know the first thing about the soul of this land. This is for the teacher hiding books up on the shelf, for the doctor taking notes to more than just himself. This is for the dreamer facing down an ice patrol, for every ancestor's prayer that paid a spirit's toll. Their power is an illusion, a fortress made of glass. Our strength is in the future, they are terrified to let pass this hurricane of justice, an earthquake of the soul. It's a holy fire raging, and it's out of their control. Enough is enough. Standing to a well now that you can't stand. Enough is enough. We're the people at the table filling up our cup. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Yeah. Check the pulse of the nation, feel a tremor in the ground. Another hollow promise, another hateful sound. The burner phones are buzzing, the leak DMs exposed. The country club whispers about the people in their robes. They smiling for the cameras, preaching unity and grace. We're drafting legislation to keep you in your place. The dog whistles the sirens, now the hoods are in the open. Igniting tiki torch shadows, leave the spirits broken. They wanna turn the clock back to a time of guilt and pain, where progress is a dirty word and fear is how they reign. But every soul they try to crush just learn to stand up straighter. This ain't a game of politics, this is gladiator.
Enough is enough. The whispers turn into the heat. My fist is getting shut up. Enough is enough. With the people at the table filling up our cup. This ain't about a party. The lines are clearly drawn. It's the light against the darkness that's coming for the dawn. Holy versus evil is the truth against the lie. We ain't backing down. With a fire in the sky.
They coming for the libraries, wanna burn away the facts. Erase the bloody chapters so you can't see the tracks. They gerrymandering the district, drawing every map. Your vote is just an echo caught inside the power trap. They purging names from voter rolls and calling it secure, while scream about election fraud to keep their motives pure. They wanna legislate the scars upon a woman's soul, and own the very choices that were never theirs. Control from the classroom to the courthouse, a calculated scheme to suffocate the promise of the American dream. But they forgot the dream was dreamed by rebels and by slaves, and their spirit is the very ground that trembles in their graves.
Enough is enough.
They call it policy, they call it survival, we call it tyranny. They stand on podiums with a Bible in their hand, but don't know the first thing about the soul of this land. This is for the teacher hiding books up on the shelf, for the doctor taking notes to more than just himself. This is for the dreamer facing down an ice patrol, for every ancestor's prayer that paid the spirit's toll. Their power is an illusion, a fortress made of glass. Our strength is in the future, they are terrified to let pass this hurricane of justice. An earthquake of the soul, it's a holy fire raging, and it's out of their control.
Enough is enough. Standing too long now that you can't stand. Enough is enough. See the people at the table filling up our corner. Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and get into our next video in just a moment. But I just wanted to read a couple things from you from my notes, okay? So we understand and we see for sure that right now, unfortunately, it seems that we are having nations that are being divided when it comes to a lot of these wars and differences of beliefs. So before the strikes began today, polling from sources like CBS News and Quinnipiac University showed a deeply split public. Now we have an opposition. Historically, a large majority of Americans, maybe around 70%, and as of recent months, expressed a strong desire to avoid another endless war in the Middle East. Many feel the focus should remain on domestic issues like the economy and water security. However, when it comes to the support following the President's State of the Union address on February 24th, there was a measurable tick up in support for military action, specifically to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. Many supporters believe peace through strength is the only way to handle the regime. So we have concerns over cost and consequences. While some approve of the noble mission, which I don't see as noble, there is a widespread anxiety about the war of choice aspect. Number one, the economic impact. Voters across the board are worried that a major war will drive up gas prices and inflation, especially given the recent tension over these tariffs that Trump has just been putting in place left and right. And they're not wrong to have fear over that, because typically that is what wars lead to. We also have the congregational approval. Overwhelmingly, regardless of party, Americans believe the president should have sought congressional approval before launching such a massive operation. The lack of formal debate has left many feeling uneasy about the legality of this movement. This is absolutely right, because typically when there are wars or wars that need to be had, which I hate that that's a thing. I don't think wars need to be had, but we know that within our governmental structure, sometimes wars happen. And when they do, there needs to be conversation and approval on the sides of not just the president, but also the Congress. And the Congress has not been spoken to or given any approval for any of these wars or attacks to proceed. And so that is a actual real thing that we need to be considering here when it comes to a lot of this. A lot of these decisions are being made and Congress is being overlooked and being escaped entirely when it comes to this administration and this president. They do not conform or sit down and have meetings or conversations when it comes to Congress. We also have this MAGA perspective, okay? Now, this is a unique tension within the president's own personal base. Many of his core supporters celebrate his decisive actions and his promise to put America first by neutralizing a long-standing enemy, is what they see or what they feel we have. Again, not my words, theirs. Others, however, feel betrayed as they voted for him based on his 2024 campaign promise to end forever wars and bring troops home, not start a massive new conflict with a nation of 93 million people. People voted and people vote for the things that are important to them. And there were a lot of people that voted on or voted for Trump because of his promises to end wars and bring troops home. These are people who may have husbands or wives, daughters or sons that are military. And when we have these wars, who do you think is fighting them? It is the military. They don't want to see their family members fighting reckless and pointless wars just because someone has a wrench up there, you know what, ASS, okay? And they're feeling some type of way and they're in their feelings. These are people's children and family members that are being put on the line to fight against these pointless wars. And so a lot of people believed when he said that he would be the president to end wars and not start them and bring troops home, that they put their faith in that when it came to him saying these things. But now we're seeing that he's actually doing the opposite. And a lot of these families that may have military children or family members or even just friends are seeing that he did not keep that promise. We also have to talk about humanitarian and global standing. The reports, and we're going to get into this video because I have this one to show y'all too. And this one I think is the most disgusting and the most heart-striking to me. The report of this school strike in Minab has significantly shifted the conversation. Many Americans that were on the fence are now deeply concerned that the U.S. is losing its moral authority. Well, if they didn't know it before, I guess they know it now. Many of us saw it very early on. Some of us are just now getting around to seeing it. But this is playing out on the world stage. Half of the country currently believes America's leadership has weakened under this aggressive new stance, while the other half believes we are finally showing the strength needed to lead. So we are still at a crossroads when it comes to certain individuals and how they think and feel, especially within the countries that they live in and the leadership that they feel as though they may have. But one thing that we cannot deny, and we will be talking about this school strike in Minab. It's an elementary school for girls. And that school was struck at the hands of this war and this weaponization. And do you know there were almost 40 students and young children that were unalive during that strike at that school? I believe that most people, whether they are from the United States or any other country, if you are a parent or if you are someone who loves children, you don't want to see children being slain as just casualties of unnecessary wars. So we're going to get into all of that. We have those videos to come. Our next video that I'm going to play for y'all, and like I said, we try to keep it very well rounded here. So this video is reporting on what all is going on, but this is from NBC News, and it's a special report. U.S. and Israel striking targets inside Iran. Iran is retaliating against the United States, Middle East military assets. Let's go ahead and listen to this video real quickly, y'all. And we will be getting into the rest of the videos in just a moment. But the one with the elementary school,
It tears my heart.
it tears my heart apart.
Yeah.
Because I got a son that in a very short amount of years will be in elementary school.
Lord Jesus.
And yeah, he'll probably be in a school in the United States. But we can't even be sure what the United States is going to look like and how it's going to operate in the next few years. And I never think it's okay for any country or any place to have children, little babies that are in school being casualties of war. That is never okay. It doesn't sit right with me, and it breaks my heart. And it just seems like we're in a place right now where, I don't know, everything is just, it is what it is. I don't know if enough people care. We're trying, we're voting, we're speaking, we're marching, we're protesting, we're activists. When does it end? When does it end? And I'm talking about worldwide. Yes, I live in the United States. I worry about what happens here in my country, but I also worry about what happens in other people's countries.
And other people, yes.
And for other people's families as well. Because we are human. We are people. That is it at the end of the day. I don't know. That's just, it seems like it's a hard thing for people to understand. But when it comes to us over here, we understand it. And we're not going to be the, oh, woe is me because of what we're going through here in the United States. Because before we were going through what we were going through, there were other countries that were going through the same things, if not worse, way longer and way before we started to experience some of the things that we're experiencing now. And I've always hated that. And I've always wanted that to change. And I've always wanted that to be different. And so when you see these type of things happening, regardless if it's in your country or your state or your city, you care about other people enough that you see when these things is happening, it's not right. It's not right. But we'll get into it in just a minute, y'all. Let's get into this video. I'll meet y'all in the chat.
Very briefly, while you've been introducing Julie Sirkin, they're telling us that right now we have a guest from Iran. Iran's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Abbas Araghchi, is joining us now from Tehran. Minister Arachi, we appreciate your making time to speak to us right now. We have a series of questions. We know that you are one of the few in that country who have the access to communicate outside of a country where there is a large blackout of communications at this time. First and foremost, our question to you, sir, is can you give us a better understanding of the situation on the ground there, the impacts that have taken place? And separately, can you confirm to us that the Ayatollah and the president are both still alive?
Well, thank you for having me. Well, the situation on the ground is quite, I cannot say normal, but the life is going on. Everything is under control. I think Americans and Israelis have failed to, access to hit their targets. And now everything is under control. And we almost in less than 2 hours, we were able to start retaliation by by attacking, American bases and some targets in Israel by our missiles. Almost all officials are safe and sound and alive. We may have lost 1 or 2 commanders, but that is not a big problem. We are actually managing it. We are handling the situation. And I was in contact with, my colleagues in the Persian Gulf. And I explained for them that, we have no intention to attack them, but we are actually attacking the American bases in the act of self-defense. We cannot just sit and watch they are attacking us and we don't, respond simply because their bases are in a friendly neighbor country. So I explained for them, and I hope that they understand this situation. Another point I have to mention is, I don't know why the U.S. administration insists to start a negotiation and then in the middle of negotiation attack, the other party. Today happened exactly what last June happened. We were in the middle of negotiations, and and it was interesting that this time we made a big progress. 2 days ago, on Thursday, we had a very good meeting in Geneva, together with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and we were able to address serious questions related to Iran's nuclear program. We obviously have differences, but we resolved some of those differences, and we decided to continue in order to resolve the rest of questions. And we actually instructed the technical team to go to Vienna and have a meeting with the IAEA. In order to find technical solution for the problems we are facing in the negotiation. And everybody was happy at the end of those negotiations. As you saw, His Excellency Badr al-Busaidi, the Foreign Minister of Oman, who is mediating between us, he concluded by posting a tweet saying that today we made significant progress. And before he posted his tweet, he consulted with both delegations and both were happy. So I don't know why, while we were progressing in our talks and we had made good, achievement, and a deal was at our reach, why they decided to attack us. Perhaps, it was others who dragged the United States for their own benefits into this, conflict. It's really pity. It's very unfortunate. And yes.
Mr. Arachi, I appreciate your comments there, and we do have a series of other questions I want to ask you, but just for clarity for our audience right now, can you confirm with specificity that the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is alive, and separately that the Iranian president is alive right now following these American and Israeli strikes?
As far as I know, yes, they are alive. And the head of judiciary as well, the head of the Speaker of Parliament as well, all high-ranking officials are alive, and the Secretary of the National Security Council. So everybody is now in its position, and we are handling this situation, and everything is fine.
Sir, do you believe that you were targeted as part of these strikes?
You mean me?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. They have targeted everybody. Yeah, Just now I saw the footages of their attack to a girl school in the city of Minab in the southern part of Iran. So 57 girls were killed by their strike. So when they strike a school, so they can also hit others easily. This attack was unprovoked, illegal, and absolutely illegitimate, and against the international law, and should be condemned. That is obvious.
You said that Iran is prepared to take self-defense towards these actions. What would that entail?
Well, we are facing an act of aggression, and obviously we have every right to defend ourselves. So what we are doing is act of self-defense, which is absolutely legal and legitimate. So, and we think that we are fully prepared for that, even more prepared than previous time, the 12-day war. And I believe we managed this. We know very well how to defend ourselves. We learned lots of lessons from the previous war, and we will certainly teach the aggressors a lesson they deserve.
Mr. Arachi, if I may ask you very quickly right now, we know that Iran, via the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard, via its proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthi rebels in Yemen, has carried out attacks on Americans, on others throughout that region. Iran insists that its nuclear program has never been with the desire to create nuclear weapons. But my question to you is, sir, why should the United States and why should the rest of the world trust Iran when it says its efforts to create a nuclear program are only for civilian use and not to continue to carry out harm against Western and American interests?
Well, first of all, we don't have proxies. There are certain groups who are fighting for a just cause, and we support them.
So that would make them a proxy, correct, sir?
But they are not receiving orders from us. They are independent groups, but we support them, and we support them in their fight for the right of self-determination or to free their land from occupation, whatever. But for the time being, we don't need anybody for our defense. We are capable enough to defend ourselves, and we will do that. And we don't need the help of anybody. On our nuclear program, I think there are every reason that Iran does not want nuclear weapon. And the whole world has tested us when in 2015, we signed a deal and we announced very clearly that Iran would never seek, develop or acquire nuclear weapons. And that was a permanent commitment in 2015 deal. I know that President Trump doesn't like that deal, but at least we proved our goodwill, and we proved that we are not seeking nuclear weapons. And it was not Iran who withdrew from that deal, it was the US. And still in 2025, when the US offered us negotiation to find a solution for Iran's nuclear program, again, we accepted. We entered into negotiation in good faith. At least 3 times we came to a good conclusion, but my interlocutor in the other side couldn't sell it in Washington. Then they suddenly attacked us. Again, this time, we entered into negotiation with the help of our Omani friends and others. Everybody supported those negotiations. And, we made significant progress this time, and then they attacked us. So it is us who have, negative, bitter experiences from talking to the United States. We have never wanted nuclear weapon. There is both religious, convictions by us, the verdict by the Supreme Leader, who considered all these weapons as inhumane and, against the Islamic teachings. At the same time, They have no place in our security doctrine, and I can explain. But I would like to reaffirm once again that we have proved our goodwill. We negotiated with E3 and then E3 plus 3 or P5 plus 1, and we concluded a deal. The whole world celebrated, and we remain committed to that deal in 2015. But it was the US who withdrew, not us. And again, the experiences of last year and this year. So I think the one who should prove its good faith, its goodwill is the United States.
Morning, seeing images of Israel and other nations try to defend itself. What is your message to the American people about how far Iran will go?
Well, we have no limit to defend ourselves.
Does that include attacking Americans?
Well, we are attacking the American military build-up in our region. We are not attacking Americans in their land. Americans are attacking our people in our cities. But this is not what we are going to do. We are attacking the Americans' bases, military bases in the region, and military installations and facilities. And this is only as an act of self-defense. We are not the one who started this aggression. It was the United States and Israel who started this aggression. So there is no limit for us to defend ourselves. But once the aggression is stopped, we would also stop our self-defense. This is quite obvious and quite natural.
Mr. Arachi, in recent weeks, we saw a crackdown by the Iranian regime on civilian protesters throughout that country. Depending on where you receive your information, hundreds or even thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of Iranian people were killed. In this moment, for the Iranian people, will you commit that Iran will not crack down, will not attack, maim, or kill the people of Iran if they choose to protest peacefully against their government?
Well, I have to correct your disinformation. We didn't crack down the protesters, we cracked down a terrorist operation. And from 28 December to 7 January, we had peaceful protests in our streets, and that was absolutely tolerated. Even the government decided to engage with the leaders of those protests to find a solution for the problems they have faced. And everything was peaceful and nobody was killed. But on 8 January to 10, it was totally a different story. Armed elements added to those protests. They came from outside. They received instructions from outside, specifically from Mossad and Israelis, and they started shooting at our police and security forces. So it was completely a different story, a terrorist operation, and we had no way but to crack it down.
So for clarity, you're saying that those who were killed were exclusively foreign agents? None of them, is your claim, were Iranians?
No, let me to explain. Those elements entered into the demonstrations and protests, and they started shooting at our police forces, and then they started shooting at people, and it was very strange. And then they started even shooting at the protesters. Why? Because they wanted to increase the number of killings, because the President of the United States had said that if there are killings, I will come to rescue. So in order to drag him into a war with Iran, they started shooting at people. So they increased the number of, in order to increase the number of deaths. And the total number was, as we have said, 3,117. And the list of all victims have been already published by us. About 2,500 of which are considered by us as martyrs, ordinary people who were killed by these terrorist elements. 200 police forces. What do you do in the United States if somebody shoots at your police? You would certainly react very harshly. And this is what we did. And then it was, over in less than in 2.5 days. So please distinguish and separate between protesters, peaceful protesters in the streets, and then a terrorist operation, which was something else. So we consider those 3 days as a plot by Israelis and the continuation of 12-day war. So why they did it? Because last time in the war, in 12-day war, they saw that people came to the streets in support of the Islamic Republic. there was a social unity in support of the system. This time they wanted to change the course, so they started with some riots in the streets. They gave weapons to certain elements to come and shoot people. So we would have this chaos, and then attack us. Exactly what is going on right now. So all of those were very well planned, plot by Israelis and Americans. But we were able to control that, operation, and we are able to defend ourselves this time. And you will see that how we can defend ourselves, and the whole would see.
Sir, you heard likely the President of the United States talk about regime change in Iran this morning in his recorded statements. What is your message to the President?
Well, I think this is mission impossible. For regime change, you cannot do regime change while millions of people are supporting these so-called regime. You just look at what happened in the 47th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. We had altogether about 30 million people in the streets in all cities of Iran in support of the Islamic Republic and in support of the whole system. So you cannot, change this regime because it's supported by the people. Yes, there are also people who are complaining, but they are strong supporters of the regime, of the system at the same time. And then we have a very well-established political structure, and they have tried regime change. This is not the first time that they want to do regime change. They have tried it in the past. Look, in the past 47 years, the United States has tried everything from coup, from sanctions, 8 years of war by Saddam Hussein, supported by the United States and many others, and then 12-day war, snapback, in the Security Council, and terrorist operations. They have tried everything, and all of them failed. And I don't know why they don't, understand their failures. So if they want to repeat a failed experience, they won't get any better result.
Then, sir, what is your message to the Iranian people? We understand that you describe the president's call for regime change as mission impossible. What is your message to the people of Iran right now? In your words, everything is under control, but based on what the world is seeing, there appears to be smoke coming up from a variety of different sites throughout Tehran. There appears to be some panic and real concern there. What do you tell the people of that country about the state of its government and the state of Iran broadly?
Well, I said everything is under control. I didn't say that there is no war. Of course there is war. Of course there is panic. Of course there are attacks to different buildings. Of course, about 60 students, girl students, have been killed in one school. Of course there are those things. But my message to my own people is that we are a great nation with a great civilization. We have lasted for thousands of years, and we know how to defend ourselves. We know how to deal with our enemies, and we will survive when we become more stronger out of this.
So when you hear the president say to the people of Iran, your freedom is your own, rise up, the United States will be with you, you say to them, that's a hollow gesture?
Isn't that the intervention in the, internal affairs of another country? If we had done so, what have you said? So the president of another country, no matter how powerful, has no right to decide for the people of another country, to order the people of another country what to do and what not to do. And this is what he did, by the way, in those terrorist operations. He was the one who set fires in the governmental buildings, do this, do that. And now he's asking people to rise against their government. Has he any right to do that? I don't think so.
Sir, are there any back channel talks, any communications that are taking place right now, or are those done? And separately, can Can this be de-escalated, and how?
Well, there is no communication right now. But if Americans want to talk to us, they know how they can contact me. We are certainly interested for de-escalation. This is not our war. This is an imposed war against us. This is a war of choice by the United States, and they have to pay for that. And they do. But as far as we are concerned, we don't want war. We don't want escalation in our region. We are ready for de-escalation, but the aggression should be stopped first. The attacks should be stopped first, and then there is the possibility to talk, and we can consider that. I'm not promising anything because our people are very angry right now. So if the war is stopped, if the aggression is stopped, then we will see how we can, work for de-escalation.
Sir, just days ago, you had said that there had been a semblance of an agreement between the U.S. and Iran, and a way to avoid a war, if you will. What specific concessions was Iran not willing to give up?
Well, on our nuclear program, we made it clear for the American team that we are prepared to do everything in order to prove that our nuclear program is peaceful and would remain peaceful forever. What we are not prepared for is to give up our right. We are not giving up our right, including for enrichment, but we are ready to build confidence on our nuclear program, to make sure that our program is peaceful and would remain peaceful forever. For that reason, for that goal, we offered good concessions to the U.S. team when we met them in last Thursday, 2 days ago. I may go into the details of those concessions in another program, perhaps, in order for the whole world to understand and for Americans to understand that we were progressing. We made significant progress. We agreed to do enrichment only based on our needs, the needs of Iranian people. I can tell you one of our needs. It is your Tehran research reactor. This is a small reactor, by the way, built by Americans before the revolution. And this reactor produces radioisotopes, medicines needed for nearly 2 million Iranians. So how we can give it up, how we can just stop this reactor? So we would continue our program based on our own needs. This is what we can do, and we are prepared to do that. And we can accept, robust verifications and monitoring by the agency, and we can even do some more confidence-building measures in order to, make sure, as I said, that everything would remain peaceful. So I see the possibility to, reach a deal which can guarantee that Iran's program is peaceful. At the same time, sanctions are lifted and economic cooperation can be, started, and we go for peace. And I don't know why the United States, why President Trump just missed that opportunity. Ask the foreign minister of Oman how close we were to get a deal.
Mr. Araghchi, if I may, we heard from the president first in his State of the Union address that took place on Tuesday, and again this morning in recorded remarks that I'm sure you've heard. The president said, among other things, that Iran has been building missiles that, in his words, could soon reach the American homeland. So as it relates to Iran's ballistic missile capabilities, does Iran now have the capability to reach the U.S. homeland? How far removed is it from that capability?
No, we don't have that capability. We have intentionally kept the range of our missiles below 2,000 kilometers. So we don't have that capability, and we don't want to do that because we don't have any hostility against, the United States people or Europeans or whatsoever. We have built that capability in order to defend ourselves against our enemies. And our missiles proved to be the most reliable means of defense for us. So obviously we cannot compromise on our missiles because our security depends on them. So the more, the US administration, the more Europeans or whoever insists that Iran should disarm itself from those missiles, the more we are convinced that in order to protect ourselves, we need those missiles. So our missiles have defensive nature. Our missiles is only for deterrence and defense. They are not for aggression. And nobody has any record of any aggression by us against our neighbors in the past 200 years.
So for clarity, you said that your missiles cannot reach the United States by design, that you do not want to reach the United States, but you also said it would be necessary as a defensive vehicle that you could if necessary. So to be clear, are you committing that Iran is not and will not build missiles that would have the capability to reach the United States?
I can confirm, yes.
Sir, if that's a red line for you, why is attacking U.S. military bases abroad justified?
But because they are attacking us. They are U.S. military, installations, facilities, bases who are attacking us. We are under attack. Why don't you, recognize this fact? We are under the attack by U.S. forces in the region. So we have every right to defend ourselves. And how to defend ourselves? We attacked, the U.S. bases. This is obvious. This is a very simple fact. And I hope that, and I'm sure that people would understand that. We are not the one who attacked Americans. We are only defending ourselves.
Did these attacks that were carried out by the U.S. and Israel today destroy Iranian missile bases?
Well, I don't think so because, we are firing our missiles almost every hour.
Did it destroy any missile bases there?
Well, I don't know. I have no detailed information yet. But as I see, only 1 hour after the U.S. attacks, we started to launch missiles, to hit targets in Israel and in U.S. bases. That means that our capability is there, and we have enough capability, we have enough strength to continue this as long as needed. I'm telling this with confidence. We are more prepared than previous war, quantity-wise and quality-wise.
Mr. Arachi, we have heard from many foreign leaders throughout the world, among them from the Kremlin. We have heard from Russia. We are beginning to hear from other nations elsewhere. What, if any, communications has Iran had from some of its allies, many of them viewed as adversaries to the United States, around the world about what they are committed to do at this time?
Well, I had a good conversation with my Russian counterpart. I also talked with my colleagues in the region, with Turkey, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, all those GCC countries. And, my mission is to end the war. This is my mission as foreign minister, to end this unprovoked war against us. And we are in close contact with our friends in Russia and China and others in the region. And I am prepared to work on any idea which is, just and reasonable and can help, helping this war, ending this war with pride, of course.
Mr. Abbas Arachi is the foreign minister of Iran. Mr. Arachi, we appreciate your perspective and coming to speak with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
All right, y'all. So I just wanted to show y'all that video so we could hear from other foreign leaders as far as some of the things that they are speaking on and talking about as well. And I think that one of the most important things that we need to pay attention to, is that, listen, okay, let's be very clear. Did the United States start all of this? Well, in my personal opinion, and for anybody who's been watching, we can say or feel as though, yes, that they have. And so to be fair, it's just like, you cannot cry wolf and cry victim when you're the one who started this. So we can talk about the direct view when it comes to the United States and who struck first, right? So if you let some of the people tell it, or how some of the history goes down, technically they say the massive physical bombing campaign that has been seen today, which is February 28th, 2026, that is called Operation Epic Fury, was preemptive. It was a preemptive strike that was launched by the United States and Israel in the early hours of today on February 28th. President Trump and PM Netanyahu stated they acted because of an imminent threat from Iran's nuclear program and missile sites. In this view, the U.S. and Israel pulled the trigger on the full-scale war that we are seeing playing out. But as we have an ongoing view, what were Iran's previous actions? Well, President Trump argues in his speeches that this was not unprovoked. He pointed to years of mass terror from Iranian-backed proxies, like the Houthis or the Hezbollah. I don't be saying these things right, y'all. I'm sorry. Who have attacked United States ships and troops. He also cited the failure of recent negotiations in Oman. From this perspective, the U.S. is finishing a conflict that Iran has been fueling for years. Yeah. Now, when it comes to Trump, right, this is my thing. We have to do our research outside of Trump to make sure that our historical facts are in place and we know exactly what it is we're talking about. But a lot of time when Trump say the things he say, I have gotten to a place now where I just do not believe him at all. But anyway, we still have to take the diligence to make sure that we're doing the proper research to know if these things are factually true or not. We also have to get into technical warfare. Okay, this is the invisible front. So when we're talking about this, there is a new way to wage war because we're living in very technological times. Okay. And a lot of this often happens before even a single bomb is dropped or goes off. So let's talk about the digital blackouts. Back in January 2026, Iran initiated a massive hermetic seal on its internet, cutting off 90 million people from the world. This was a technical war move to control the narrative and hide the internal movements. We also understand that there is cyber renaissance. Experts believe the U.S. used this digital silence to track Iranian military signals more clearly. When you turn off the noise of civilian Netflix and WhatsApp and etc., the signal of the military becomes more easier to find and target. We also have to talk about standoff weapons. The war is being fought with one-way attack drones and precision cyber attacks on power grids and command centers. Technology always allows countries to strike from thousands of miles away without putting a single boot on the ground until they decide to go all in physically. So technology is a very big factor when it comes to a lot of the warring that we see as of lately and recently. It's not just about what we used to see, cannons and rifles, one side versus the other side in some wide open piece of land. It's getting very tactical now. Let's also talk about the speech segment, okay? And we have to be honest. Fair is fair. We have to be honest with ourselves today. The missiles that hit Tehran this morning were our missiles. We struck first in this specific operation because our leaders believe that waiting would be more dangerous. we would have to ask, does striking first truly prevent retaliation, or does it ensure it? As we speak, our bases in Bahrain and Qatar are being hit because of the choice made today. And don't forget, like I said, the technical war. This didn't start with bombs. It started with hackers, internet blackouts, and digital surveillance. Technology has turned the whole world into a battlefield. We need to stay educated because the war isn't just over there anymore. It's in the wires, it's in the phones, it's in the very technology we use each and every day. We must stand for peace in the digital world just as much as the physical one. So when I say all of that, I want y'all to think about this and the things that you have been seeing, that you have been experiencing, even when it comes to platforms such as YouTube. We're talking about world wars. We're talking about civil wars. We're talking about governmental structures that are going to war with one another. But what about the wars that we also see that are happening within these platforms that we reside in every day? And how we see a lot of these attacks and these things are being done to attack, to gain information from individuals, to tear an individual down, to expose an individual, to drag an individual. Is that not yet war? We are at war in more ways than one. And when it comes to the technology, I believe us more than anybody else who spends most or majority of our time in the technological sector on these platforms, using these type of softwares and even hardwares, understand that as we are living in 2026, it's not the same as the civil wars that we used to see back in the day. It's not the same as the world wars that we used to see back in the day. Like I said, that typically look like cannons and rifles on a big open space of land with one side versus the other side. Now there's other ways we can attack, or anybody can attack on either side when it comes to this technology and this technological system that we all engage in and operate with every day. So yeah, we are at war in more ways than one, more ways than we know. Let's wake up and smell the coffee beans here. When we had, and I heard multiple individuals talking about the things that they can do because they've been pissed off and they have the control over these systems. I heard about Canada and Ontario saying that they can make full blackouts for individuals and just wipe out power grids. Because you have to understand who has the power and controls what. And when they have that set power and control those said things, if they want a war, if they want to fight against you and get you where it hurts, they'll take from you the very most thing that you appreciate and that is most important to you. And what is that? Power, electricity, internet. Power. Okay? Without the power, there's no internet. Without the internet, a lot of times there's no job, there's no income, there's no life. Because a lot of the time, where we living in right now in 2026, everything is digital and technological. A lot of people work from home on a computer. Hello. Yes. Me. And many of you too. You take all of that away, what you got left? What you gonna do? You take the power grids down, what's gonna happen? What you gonna do? And that don't matter whether you work from home or you work in an actual facility or a store or someplace or space. If you have no electricity, the lights ain't on, the registers are not on, any of the things that you use and operate within that said business is not on. And this is the problem. This is what is most dangerous when it comes to a lot of things that we're seeing playing out within our governmental structure and system and allyship right now. We are not having great business deals and allies and friendships when it comes to individuals that can snap their fingers and take certain accesses away from you that you just take for granted. You think, oh, as long as I pay my electric bill, I got electricity. Well, typically that's how it's supposed to be. But who is behind you having electricity? Where does that electricity come from? What are the resources and the minerals and all of the things that go into us having these said electricities within our countries, within our states, within our cities? A lot of time it comes from other countries. This is about the resources that's outsourced from other countries and other people in other areas that provide these things to us so we can live as comfortably as we do in this country. And now we have leadership, a president that is in place that has decided to pick a bone with each and every one of these countries and individuals that have benefits that make our lives more comfortable. And now we're not sitting here understanding that now he has pissed these people off, going against them, head-butted them, tried to manipulate them and intimidate them into doing what he wants them to do, and they bow out from doing it. What does that mean for us as the people? With the things that bring us comfortability and help us live our lives in a more safe and comfortable way.
Starting with them crazy tariffs.
You want to tariff everybody that has always been an ally to you, that has always helped you and had your back, and you're going to turn against them and tell them that they need to pay this amount, that amount, this amount, that amount, being greedy. And they say, no, we're not doing that. So when they take their business away, what do you think that outcome is going to look like for us as people that live here in this country when we do not have the resources
or
allies from other countries that have made things very comfortable for us to live in this country? We're not going to be comfortable. We're not going to have the access to some of these things. And we're going to see wars popping up left and right because people are willing to fight. They are tired. They are tired of this abuse. They are tired of being mishandled. They are tired of being mistreated. They are tired of being felt like they're less than. It's an equal exchange. If you're exchanging something with this country or something that we have in our country, that's an equal exchange. And both individuals deserve the equal amount of respect. But these people are not receiving any respect. These countries are not receiving any respect. This man has gone out of his way to disrespect, tear down, and drag other countries, leaderships, and individuals for filth because he thinks that he's the end all be all. No, only God is that. So I don't know what type of high horse he rode in on with all of this mess that he started that is affecting things for all of us. But I'm telling you right now, us here in the United States as American citizens, whatever the hell, if you're citizen, whatever. But us here who reside in the United States, in this country, the way things are going right now, yeah, we're done for at this point. But see, God. And what I know is there's a lot of people that have God in their hearts, whatever their God looks like, whatever their religion it is that they pray to and they believe in. There's a lot of light in people more than dark. And that's the one thing that I think that we can depend on or we can hope for. Because I heard how the representatives and the leadership of Canada stood up and spoke. And like I said, I won't speak on things that I don't know because I don't live in these countries. I don't know how these people move and operate and put things in place for y'all country as y'all as citizens there. So I don't want to go waving my flag if you feel like, no, this person is not a good person. I don't know all of that. But at least from what I've seen and what I heard them saying when it comes to this mess that we in right now, it seems like majority of them are trying to take the integral route. It seems like the majority of them that despite the fact of how they're being treated, they're not going to lay down and take it. They will fight back, but they also realize it's not just about them and the structure of the governmental systems. It is about the people, and they seem to care about the people. And so sometimes they probably going to have to make some decisions and choices that they may probably not want to make, but for the people, they have to make them because it's the integral thing to do. If you're saying that you are someone who represents and stands for and is going to take care of the people in your country. That's what I've seen. That's what I've been seeing. That's what I've been reporting on. And I've been seeing this nation, this country, this world, this big, beautiful globe that God created. We all reside on some part of it, but we all are God's sons and daughters and children, all of us, despite where we reside on this big, beautiful globe, what language we speak, what color our skin is, what nationality we may be. We all are God's children. God created all of this, and that's just my personal spiritual beliefs. I don't want to put that or force that on nobody else. Y'all believe in what you believe in. You see it how you see it. This is how I see it. I see us all as one. I see us all as brothers and sisters. I see us all as being created by the source, which to me, yes, I identify as God. And when it comes to that, I just feel like that will always reign and have power over anything else. And there are some that will be rocking with it, and there are some that's going to be turning against it. And I have seen with this whole fallout, this whole blowout that's been happening, I see who stands where. I see what individuals stand on what side of right and what side of wrong. And I can't be proud. I can't be proud of our president and our representative for our country in the United States right now, because I don't see him standing on the right side of that. But I do see other leadership from other countries that are standing with a level of integrity, with a level of love, caring about the people as a masses. And I believe that they're going to fight against that. What do you feel, Ma?
I agree. I agree and think so too.
We dope.
Yeah, I agree and think so too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's very hard for me or other people, in my opinion, to be proud of the leadership and presidential leadership that we have and administration we have.
We can't be proud of it.
I can't feel no proudness.
There's no pride. There's no pride. We don't agree with that. No. We look at it and we like, this is the most ridiculous mess that have ever popped up out of a Jack-in-the-Box box that we've ever seen. And I ain't talking about the restaurant. I'm talking about the little child's toy. You just wind it up, and then boom, Trump pops out.
And everything he puts his hand on is a disaster. It's a disaster. Everything
He's a clown.
He puts his hand on is a disaster.
I bet you that Trump won't try that with China. China has nuclear weapons. Pretty soon, Iran will have nuclear capabilities. It's just a matter of time.
Possibility, yeah.
You see? there's a lot of things here. It's just like, you know, we got to pull back the blanket and see it for what it really is when it comes to a lot of this. Honestly, we do. And to me, I've been paying enough attention to it, and I've been reporting on it so frequently, day after day after day. I'm seeing the patterns of what's going on, and I'm seeing it for what it really is. And I want to be a person that lives and walks within the truth, despite where I reside. Yes, I live in the United States, but am I looking at this and I'm saying, "Oh, this is right"? Yeah, we appreciate this.
No.
How our country is being ran
No.
and the leadership up under. No,
No.
we don't appreciate it. It's not right. It's terrible. It's nasty work.
We have hearts of moral integrity. We have moral integrity, and many others I know have moral integrity. And this is not this is not what we asked for. We did not ask.
We got people with voters' remorse that voted for this mess, and now they even having a change of heart. They don't even see this as good. None of it is good. It's not good for not one of us, not near one of us.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
But we're going to go ahead and take a quick song break. After we come back from the song break, we got to talk about this next story, y'all, because this is what I'm saying. The casualties of war and nasty work, it's terrible, because there's an elementary school in Israel that was struck. Elementary school, I believe that was like a female elementary school. I guess they do separate genders. I'm gonna look into that school more. But there was almost 40 students unalive in the hands of these strikes and these wars that are unnecessary. Senseless wars, unnecessary wars, period. That is it, and that is all. It's just, I don't know. We got to be honest with ourselves, okay? Very honest with ourselves. But it's okay. We're going to get into this video in just a moment. Let's take this quick song break. I want us to also remember, no matter where we at, no matter what country we in, what nationality we are, what skin tone we are, we all at the end of the day are human. That's it, period. And as a human, you have certain needs and necessities that you need to be met. And when you see that you live in a country or under a structure where you have someone who doesn't seem to care about any of that, you have to start questioning yourself and waking up. What the heck is going on? Because it's not right and it's not normal. But let's take this song break and we'll be right back. And we will have to report on this sad story about the elementary school with 40 plus students that are unalive at the hands of war. We will be right back.
A roof above, a shelter from the storm, a gentle hand to keep your spirit warm, a plate of food, a mind that's free to learn, a simple peace, a righteous wage to earn. These are the needs, the bedrock and the base, the sacred ground of the whole human race. But the screaming and selling something cheap, while is twisted and real. Teaching our children how they ought to feel. Their values in the label on your shoes. All the filtered life you desperately choose. They magnify the hate, they celebrate the greed and plan a poison, a suffocating weed. We gotta reach our children, pull them from the glow, and show them a beauty that the media don't know. Yo, check the vision, the mission of the television. Spitting division, a mental prison. Got the youth chasing likes, addicted to the feed, ignoring the hunger, the fundamental need. They building paper idols on a digital stage, putting our future daughters in a virtual cage. Now we gotta break the cycle, gotta cut the cord. The real word is powerful, mightier than the sword. So we teach them about their history, teach them about their grace, teach them about the power in every single face. We are human, blood and bone and soul, with a right to be loved, a right to be made whole. This is our story, this is our sacred song. In the eyes of the Creator, it's where we all belong. We are human, worth more than they can price, beyond the hateful whispers and the loaded dice. Human, worth more than they can price, beyond the hateful whispers and the loaded dice. We will build a wall where every voice is heard and valued. Yeah, yeah. And truth is not a whisper, but a mighty thundering word. Oh, word of justice, a word of peace, a promise that the fight will never cease. This ain't just a track, this a call to action. For every mother, father, every single fraction of the community holding it down on the ground. Time to get loud, make a revolutionary sound. Look your child in the eye, tell them that they matter. Tell them their spirit's something that no lie can shatter. Tell them knowledge is the weapon, love is the shield, and the truth is the harvest we gonna grow in this field. Yeah! Yes, we are. Teach the children near and far. Let them know their sacred work. Fight for every single soul on this a right to live, a gift to get.
All right, y'all. So we about to go ahead and get into this next video. And I do want to say extreme trigger warning, because we are talking about children. We're talking about elementary school. And we're talking about the casualties of war. So this is an elementary school that was struck by Israel. And yeah, we are at war against Iran. So let's hear a little bit about what was going on with that. I just want us to remember, like, no matter what country it is and what the history may have been or continues to be, these are children, okay? There's many of us that have children, you know? And so when you do, or even if you don't, if you just have a heart and understand, these are casualties of war, little innocent babies that haven't even gotten a chance to live their lives yet, that have now been casualties of wars or adult fights, basically. It's how I see it. What do you feel, Mom?
Exactly. Exactly.
So let's go ahead and get into this video, and we will be right back. We'll meet y'all in the comments per usual. Extreme trigger warning, okay? And fair use under copyright 107. We'll be right back.
growing sense that the Omani foreign minister was almost trying to will it into existence, try to put a positive spin on things to try to get out ahead of this and prevent it. If he talked it up big enough, maybe the strike wouldn't come. But will it into existence, try to put a positive spin on things. But as I was talking to people last night, there was a growing sense that the Omani foreign minister was almost trying to will it into existence, try to put a positive spin on things to try to get out ahead of this and prevent it. If he talked it up big enough, maybe the strike wouldn't come. But at that point, President Trump had apparently already made his mind. We saw his comments in Texas yesterday afternoon, very upset with how he deemed Tehran was handling these negotiations. And we started to get word that strikes would likely come, though sooner than expected. President Trump does like the element of surprise. We have seen that last summer with Iran. We saw that in early January in Venezuela. It appears that in some fashion anyway, these strikes came a little earlier than most expected. And we should just note, I mean, to Ali's point, yes, some phone calls in the last 12 hours or so, but very little congressional consultation on the whole. Very little effort, even more strikingly, to sell the public on this war. He barely mentioned it in his State of the Union address on Tuesday. So for some Americans waking up to this news today, they're going to be surprised that A, we're attacking Iran again, but B, words from the president himself in that video message overnight that some American lives will likely be lost. That's different. That's something that Trump has avoided with his one-off military strikes, both in his first term and now in the second, when they're occurring more regularly. That's a threshold that he has been unwilling to cross. A lot of his base doesn't want him to cross. And we'll see. If this remains a relatively limited back and forth, that's one thing. But if this does, as expected, turn into a wider, prolonged conflict and it destabilizes the region, American military members are killed, this has to become a lengthy commitment, this will, frankly, Willie, in part define his presidency in a way that I'm not sure, he, and so many people around him would have wanted when he retook the oath of office just over a year ago.
I think you're so right. I think one of the most surprising things about this is not the attack, because many people thought it might be a Venezuela-style attack, a one and done, but the president preparing Americans for the loss of American lives in this campaign. That is something that I think even the president's closest supporters didn't think was going to happen. So this suggests he is willing to stake a good part of his legacy on this. Jonathan Lemire and Ali Vitale, thank you so much for your reporting. Stay with us.
Yeah, it's just past 8:30 on the East Coast. We're following major breaking news for you this morning here on MS Now. Let's bring in Karine Sajapour. He is a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and one of the preeminent experts on Iran and the region as a whole. And David Ignatius, you can take the first question.
So, Kareem, you're one of the people who knows Iran best. President Trump, in his statement announcing the launching of this campaign, in effect called on the Iranian people to take to the streets after the U.S. had hit Iranian targets. And I want to ask you whether you think that's likely, that Iranians will indeed come out of their houses amid the chaos and challenge the regime as the president hopes. And second, if that happens and the IRGC and the Basij, the two Iranian forces that Khamenei, supreme leader, would use to try to suppress those demonstrations, what would the U.S. do in response? You have people then who might be being slaughtered in the streets. Would that force the United States to do what President Trump so far hasn't done, which is to put in troops?
David, it's a very important question. One of the very first images we see from this conflict was a girls' school in Tehran that was obviously inadvertently bombed, and it looked like there were at least 50 deaths of a children's school. And so this is for Iranian people a very early sign of the horrors of war. What President Trump admonished people to do is to first wait until the bombing is stopped. He said to people to stay in their homes, and then once the bombing is stopped, to take over their government. But as you alluded to, this is a regime which still has an enormous repressive capacity. There's at least 150,000 Revolutionary Guardsmen. There's perhaps double that number in Basij militia. And the mentality of this regime right now is kill or be killed. And so we haven't yet seen, obviously we're very early days, early hours, we haven't yet seen cracks within Iran's security establishment, but that will be determinative as to whether this regime can stay in power and stay cohesive, or people will sense an opportunity and rise up against it.
And Kareem, we just in the last few weeks saw that brutal repressive power of the regime as protesters bravely took to the streets, and thousands of them were killed right there where they protested. So as the President of the United States now explicitly calls for regime change, can you speak, Kareem, to the relative weakness or strength of the regime in the country? We know it's repressive power, but in terms of popular support generationally, a regime that effectively has been in power since 1979, how popular or unpopular is the regime, and what does that mean for the potential for regime change?
Well, Willie, I think this is one of the most hated regimes in the world by its people. There's, in my view, no country in the world with a greater gap between its government and its people than Iran. And so I would estimate that at best it has perhaps 15 to 20% at most popular support, the vast majority being opposed. But what the regime does have is the fact that it's heavily armed, heavily organized, and willing to kill en masse, as they demonstrated last month, to stay in power, in particular because this regime is so lonely, it doesn't have a plan B. It doesn't have a strategy for the political and military elite to go remake their lives in Damascus or Moscow. And so the question is there going to be a follow-on by the United States? What continued political targets will the government of Israel attack? We knew there was attacks on the Supreme Leader's compound. If the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei has been ruling the country 37 years, if he's killed, what is the impact on the regime? Do people close ranks, or do they sense that the ship is sinking and they jump off? These are all questions that will be determined in the coming days. But I think one thing that it is clear is that the president's intention is not to recreate what happened in 2001 and the removal of the Taliban in Afghanistan, in 2003, the removal of Saddam Hussein in Iraq to send American boots in Iran. And so this is a population which, outnumbers the regime significantly, but it's a regime which significantly outmatches the population in terms of its coercive capacity.
All right, so that was just a little bit of the video as far as what is going on in these elementary schools. We have another video to show y'all actually, the darkness and the sad side of being a casualty of wars that are not yours, that you have not started, and you don't know anything about. You're just walking outside of your house, trying to go to school, trying to go to work and live your regular life, and wars are waging within your area without you even knowing exactly all the time what is going on and why, and you being the exact casualty of those said wars. So let me play the next video for y'all. Give me just a minute to get it pulled up. I'll be right back. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get into this video. Like I said, extreme trigger warning. This is a quick little report so y'all can see exactly what has been happening with this elementary school. And there are children that are unalived as casualties of this war and these attacks. So this is never okay. It's never okay.
Never okay.
But let's go ahead and play a little bit of this, y'all. Trigger warning, okay?
Casualties now being reported after Iranian officials say an Israeli missile struck a girls' elementary school, killing 51 children and injuring another 60 people. White House officials confirming the U.S. military has begun major combat operations in the country. Now, nationwide strikes have been reported by Iranian media. Smoke can be seen rising from capital in Tehran. The attack follows an increase in U.S. military buildup in the region in an effort to pressure Iran into an agreement over its nuclear program. In a video post, President Donald Trump called Iran the world's #1 state sponsor of terror.
Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people.
Now, Iran is retaliating just a few hours after the strike. Explosions rocked northern Israel over as the country attempted to intercept incoming missiles. Now, U.S. officials confirm operations could last several days, targeting military sites and government buildings.
All right, y'all. So as y'all can see, you know, when it comes to casualties of war, when it's children in schools, little small itty bitty babies, this is not right. These type of things should not be happening in our world. And I say in our world because it's not just about countries. Yes, I'm from the United States. A lot of people are from different countries than I'm from. But this is what's happening in our world right now. Little itty bitty babies are becoming casualties of wars of adults and people with a, you know, a God complex. Some of them, a lot of them, in my personal opinion. That's just what I feel about it. And I just think it's real nasty work. But let's go ahead and move along, y'all. I know we are going over in time. I try to keep it to 2 hours, but we, you know, we got some things to talk about and we have our commentary in between. So that makes it a little bit longer. But I just wanted to show y'all this so we can really get down to the severity of the situation of what's happening, the changes and the updates of what is happening right now, not just in my country, which is the United States, but what is happening globally and worldwide. And a lot of these things have been happening for a long period of time. And I know that I'm just getting in on speaking on politics in the later years of my life. I wish I would have talked about it earlier when I was younger. I wish. And I wish I would have known more about it. But once we know better, we do better, right? So let's go ahead and get into this next video, y'all, and we'll be right back. This video, again, here, we're talking about more of this situation, okay? This war that is happening right now is not necessity. This is a war of choice. And we have Obama era ambassador is reacting to the U.S. Israel strikes in Iran. This is from MS Now. So let's go ahead and get into this video, y'all. We'll watch this together. It's about 12 minutes and we'll move right along. We're going to end it very soon. I promise y'all. Thank y'all for rocking with me. I'm sorry that is so long. Let's get into it.
We have Ambassador Wendy Sherman on the phone now, it sounds like. And Ambassador, thank you for joining us. I want to read a little bit from the Omani Foreign Minister's statement from this morning. He says, "I am dismayed. Active and serious negotiations have yet again been undermined. I urge the United States not to get sucked in further. This is not your war." There were a lot of back and forth negotiations that sounded, at least what the Omani Foreign Minister told David Rode, that they were on the way to something here. But my question for you is, were the negotiations just for show, and were we always going to end up on this day like this?
Well, from the reporting that's been done this morning, it sounds like this has been planned, this war, for some time. It is a war of choice, not of necessity. I'm not clear what the imminent threat to the United States is. Look, the Iran regime is odious and terrorizes its own people and the world. That said, there are plenty of odious governments around the world, and I don't know if President Trump expects to bring freedom to everyone. This is clearly not what the American voters voted for. President Trump is not the president I voted for, but nonetheless, the American people elected him on the idea that we would not do these war of choice, particularly in the Middle East. I think that negotiations were indeed possible, tough, difficult, takes time. You can't do it as a drive-by, which is how they were being done. And quite frankly, there's enormous concern this morning as well. What happens to other things that we're trying to do in the world? Bring an end to Putin's horrific, illegal invasion of a sovereign country, Ukraine. What will happen to the Gaza plan to ensure that the Palestinian people have a future and Israel is secure? So there is a lot to unpack here. And it's sort of strange. If you go back, you see comments by Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, even Secretary Rubio, that we should not be doing regime change, and that if indeed Kamala Harris had been elected, that's what would have happened. But here we are, President Trump putting our men and women at great risk, our military and civilians all over the world.
Ambassador Wendy Sherman echoing the concerns that a lot of our other guests have had, which is the U.S. military being overstretched with our commitments around the world right now. Thanks for joining us. And joining us now is Nicholas Kristof, New York Times columnist and Pulitzer Prize-winning author, and Ayman Mohadeen, co-host of MS Now's The Weekend Primetime. Ayman, I want to start with you. You've been on air since we got here early this morning, and even before that. Can you talk a little bit about other expressions of support this administration could potentially make that don't involve shows of military might? David Rode told us first thing this morning that it was concerning that the internet blockage was occurring. He said it was down to, I believe, 4%. Yeah. How does any sort of opposition even come together in a situation like this, especially, as you noted in the break, when Trump himself is giving some contradictory advice?
Yeah, I mean, right now, there's very little information coming out of Iran that is not from the official state media, right? And so that puts the people of Iran, as well as people outside of Iran, into a bit of an information black hole, if you will. The president of the United States came out and said to the people of Iran, you will soon have your government, go, basically, more or less, once this operation is over, go claim your government, but doesn't offer a roadmap as to what that will look like. Certainly doesn't offer what resources are being made available to those inside of Iran who may be sympathetic to this military operation. And there are a lot of people who are anti-regime inside Iran who would love to see this regime collapse. But there is, at this moment, no clear or plan of action for what the president specifically spelled out. The other major concern in all of this is the humanitarian situation. We're getting some troubling reports right now coming out from Iran. And it's very difficult to verify this. It's very difficult to get a sense of the casualty figures and what has or what has not been targeted. I've spoken to multiple Arab officials in the region who some have relations with Iran, have a diplomatic presence. They're able to get some information out. And what they're describing now is a lot of fear and a lot of apprehension, a lot of uncertainty, but also some very disappointed with the lack of U.S. support for some of these Gulf countries. And in some ways, this is going to be a race against time, because as we've now seen countries like the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain have all been subject to these missile attacks. The U.S. have provided them interceptor missiles to be able to shoot some of these down. The question is going to be how quickly can the U.S. replenish them versus how many more Iran can continue to lob into the region, because that is basically the race against time that we're facing here. Can the U.S. sustain this support for these Arab countries with interceptor missiles and defensive capabilities versus how long the Iranian regime, which seems to still be in place, able to launch this counterattack?
Christoph, I want to bring you in here because when you look at the speed at which this feels like it escalated for all of us, it seemed very obvious that the president was going to do this. But the president said on Tuesday a few sentences about Iran. And so when you look at an administration that doesn't feel like it needs to make a case to the American people, to the world publicly about why something like this would need to take place. There were conversations, it sounds like, with some folks on the Gang of Eight. So there was some coordination as the attacks were just about to happen. But the lack of explaining to the American people what this is actually going to look like moving forward, is that an issue or no?
Well, I think it is. And I mean, but I think that they not only had trouble explaining to the world what they were doing, I think they frankly had some trouble explaining to themselves. I saw this described as an armada without a strategy. And I think there is something to that. And I guess I also worry that President Trump and his aides had too sunny a view of how Iran may respond. I think they saw the killing of Qasem Soleimani. Iran did not respond as much as many people had suggested. Then last year, after the war, Iran again did not respond as forcefully as many had expected. And so I think that they think, well, we can do this, as we did in Venezuela. And I look at their aims of regime change, and I note that they couldn't even topple the Houthi regime in Yemen after spending $7 billion. I mean, that was both Joe Biden and Donald Trump with an air war. And so, look, I've traveled through Iran, reported there a number of times, and the regime there is unpopular. But the idea that people are going to turn out in the streets and overthrow Ayatollah Khamenei, I'm skeptical. And meanwhile, of course, we have enormous risks to the 40,000 troops in the region, to other countries there, the risk of terror attacks, the risk of the Strait of Hormuz being either closed or traffic limited. I just see this great disjunction between the aims and the probability that it will succeed and the risks to Americans and others.
Amy, let's pick up on what Nicholas was just talking about. One line he just said that jumped out at me in terms of characterizing the Trump administration. We can do this. Yeah. But can the U.S. do this alone? I'm just looking at this statement here from the leaders of France, Germany, and the United Kingdom on what's happened. I'm just going to read this one line, second paragraph. We did not participate in these strikes, but are in close contact with our international partners, including the United States, Israel, and partners in the region. We reiterate our commitment to regional stability and to the protection of civilian life. Just my reading of that, it seems to be that the Europeans, those leaders, are keeping the United States at arm's length distance. And there's no real, they're committed to regional stability, but it doesn't sound like they're committed to doing that with the United States. Can what the United States and Israel, what they're doing right now in the strikes in Iran, can they succeed without the quote unquote Western alliance?
The short answer to that is highly unlikely. And it really depends on what this is in all of this, right? Because if you're talking about simply collapsing the Iranian regime, what we learned in 2003 from the Iraq War was that the United States militarily, which has by far superior capabilities, can destroy the government, can destroy a regime that is in place in any country. But if they don't have a mechanism to replace the state apparatus that it is about to collapse with some kind of governing structure to control 90 million people, you're going to see what happened in Iraq tenfold in Iran. This is a country that is 90 million people made up of all kinds of ethnicities, all kinds of competing power centers and factions within that country. It has been held in place by this oppressive regime, which has oppressed opposition, what have you. But in order to be able to chart a path forward after the war, if indeed this war is, as the United States says, will be successful in a couple of days or perhaps even a couple of weeks, the question then becomes, how do you maintain the territorial integrity? How do you maintain a governing structure in Iran? And the United States cannot do that without either having a strong opposition presence on the ground or having the support of the international community that will say, these are the types of things that we want to put in place to help the Iranian people get back up and running on their feet, whether it is government, services, what have you. Right now, none of the people that I've spoken to who are anticipating this war, saying like with the presence, this was something that was on their mind, none of them have been consulted about what this is going to look like the day after. None of them have been asked, what do you anticipate happening if we were to collapse this regime? You're going to potentially see the overflow of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Iranians into countries nearby. Afghanistan and Pakistan are basically now in a full-blown war.
That's right.
So you now have a very volatile region, and the United States has just embarked on this military war in a very combustible part of the world.
And we're talking about a regime, an oppressive regime that's been in place since the Iranian Revolution of 1979.
Right.
Ayman Mohyeldin, Nicholas Kristof, thank you both very much for coming to our breaking news coverage.
All right, y'all. So we're gonna go ahead and get into our final video for this live. And I know it has been a little bit past the 2-hour mark. So thank y'all. But I just wanted to show y'all a little bit. I'm sorry, not the final video. We got 2 videos. So I got one video that's really short, and then I got one video that's a little bit longer, but I won't be showing that whole thing. I'm just gonna show half. So I wanted to show y'all of what some of this looks like on the ground in these areas, in these cities in Iran as far as this war. So we're going to go ahead and get into those videos in just a moment. We will take a quick song break before we do that. Just a very short one. And we will be right back because I believe we got to see this stuff. If y'all haven't seen it yet, we have to see it now and we'll talk about it. And I want to know what y'all think and feel about it as well. So, you know, y'all always are free to come into the chat and talk with me. You always are free to leave comments underneath the video. I don't want you to be scared to feel like we can't have conversations. I'm somebody you can converse with. You can tell me how you feel, and you may not agree or see things the way that I see them. And that's okay. I'm open to that here. I'm open to us having different points of opinion, you know, different ways we see things and how they move and they operate. So please don't be scared. I don't know if people are scared of me or scared to come to my platform and talk to me. I don't want you to be scared. If I have to combat with somebody or people, sometimes I do that sometimes from time to time, and I don't even like doing that. But I don't want those type of things to scare you away from coming to talk to me or being on my platform and us having these conversations together. And even if you see it differently and you don't agree or you don't see it the way I see it, I don't want you to be scared to be able to say how you think and how you see things. That is us as people, as we are free to think and feel the way we do. But anyway, let's take this quick song break. We're going to get into this next video. We'll see some triggering content of exactly what is happening over there within these war zones right now. But all of this, as far as these wars, it all needs to cease. And I've made songs about this stuff long ago. It seems like they are coming into handy right about now. So I'm going to go ahead and take the song break. We're going to play Ceasefire. And I really meant that song when I wrote it. And I wrote the words for it. We have to ceasefire, right? But let's get into that song and we'll come back with the next video. Be right back.
air is thick with whispers, digital ghosts in the machine. They feed us fiction till our vision's blurred, you know the scene. Static on the screen, a 24-hour scream, selling us a fractured dream, tearing at the seams. They got us locked in little boxes, picking sides, while the real tide rises and nobody hides. Yo, podiums are burning, bridges turn to ash and dust. They trading rhetoric like bullets, banking on our lack of trust. Got us debating pronouns while the planet starts to rust. Got us obsessed with power, drowning in our own disgust. Politicians playing chess with pawns that look like you and me, selling off the future for a bump in their damn GDP. And what we talking about, the foolishness, the vanity, fighting over AI songs, the height of our insanity. A fake voice on a fake beat gets more rage and more ink than a real bomb dropping on a city while we blink. They engineered the outrage, designed it to divide, so we never look up from our phones to see the coming tide. Oh, can you hear the war drums pounding out a rhythm low? They're marching us to battle for a God we do not know. They want us choosing colors, but our blood all runs the same. Just strangers in a mirror, whispering a different name. I'm praying for the day the sun won't care what shade we are. That we can see the human heart behind the battle scar. Tear down the flags and see the faces before we run out of safe places. I see the babies born into this atmospheric hate. Taught to fear they name before they learn to conjugate. Lines drawn in the sand by hands that never touch the soil, while the working class backbone is bent in endless toil. From Ferguson to Palestine, from Kiev to the Sudan. Listen, it's the same damn story, part of the same damn plan. Keep the people fighting over scraps upon the floor, so they never band together and demand a slice of more. They call it patriotism, tradition, call it pride. I call it ancient venom with a modern place to hide. Skin tone is the uniform they gave us for they war, but the soul inside the flesh is what we should be fighting for. And I'm tired, so tired of singing this eulogy. Oh, can you hear the war drums pounding out a rhythm low? They're marching us to battle for a God we do not know. They want us choosing colors, but our blood all runs the same. Just strangers in a mirror, whispering a different name. I'm praying for the day the sun won't care what shade we are. That we can see the human heart behind the battle scar. Tear down the flags and see the faces before we run out of safe places. What if we looked each other in the eye, past the melanin, past the zip codes and the bank accounts they fence us in? What if our only currency was empathy and grace? What if we found our real reflection in a stranger's face? This ain't a lyric, it's a lifeline that I'm throwing out. This ain't a song, it's the beginning of a different route. I'm a daughter of the struggle, a mother of a dream, to wash away the blood and poison from this bitter stream. So turn the volume down on all the noise they try to say. voice inside you know so well. World War III is knocking. They're at the door. But it's not nation against nation anymore. It's ignorance against wisdom. It's love against the fear. The real war is right here.
All right, y'all. Thank you for rocking with me and Mama while we had to take that quick little song break. So we're going to go ahead and get into our next video. And this one is coming from CNN. We'll be talking about U.S. and Israel attacks Iran. And then we also have here what they say. Hold on, y'all. Tehran retaliates across the Middle East. People are in panic. So let's go ahead and play a little bit of this video. And then our final video for the live will be here in a little bit from the Midas Touch Network with Ben Masalis. And then Mother has a very beautiful prayer.
I'm going to come and bring the calm of the storm. I'm going to bring us some calm.
Yeah. Per usual, how she always does. She's going to come in. She has a prayer that she wants to read for all of us, each and every one of us. No matter where we are in this big, beautiful globe, the prayers are for all of us. It's not just for people in the United States. It's for human beings and people, period. And so that's what we'll be bringing at the very end to leave this live with positivity. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into this video real quick. We'll meet y'all in the chat per usual.
A missile fragment falling to the ground and exploding in Doha, the capital of Qatar. It's part of the retaliation from Iran after the U.S. and Israel launched a massive and ongoing military campaign across Iran. U.S. embassies across the region are now telling Americans to shelter in place, and just in, the State Department is now urging all U.S. citizens in Lebanon to get out while commercial options are still available. Let's go live right now to CNN's Paula Hancock, who's joining us from Abu Dhabi. Paula, you and your teams are hearing new explosions where you are all the time, right?
Yes, Wolf, there was another wave of incoming missiles, or at least we heard the blasts of what we assume to be the interceptions by the defense here in the UAE. This has been happening for hours now, so we're certainly seeing no let-up in the retaliation from Iran. We've heard from the Ministry of Defense here in Abu Dhabi saying that they have been intercepting missiles. They also say that one person has been killed by falling debris after an interception. We've seen images of smoke near the Al Dhafra base here in Abu Dhabi as well. So potentially not all of those missiles were intercepted, but we're certainly seeing no let up in this retaliation. We've seen it as well in Doha, in Qatar. They just recently had another wave of incoming missiles. Officials there saying that they are intercepting them as they come in. There are shelter in place orders across the Gulf nations. Airspace has been closed. We know in Bahrain, where the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet is based, that they have been targeted as well. And the same in Kuwait. We have heard reports in Jordan as well. There is anger as well as concern amongst these Gulf nations that they have become targets themselves. Many of them had said to the United States they were unable to use their bases if they were going to strike Iran. They had said that their airspace must not be used as well, as they wanted to put some distance between themselves and what the US president was ultimately going to decide to do. We've heard statements, for example, from Saudi Arabia saying that they give the strongest condemnation of this blatant and cowardly Iranian attacks, also pointing out that there have been incoming into Riyadh and the eastern province. Qatar has called it a flagrant violation of its national sovereignty. The UAE condemning and denouncing this as well in the strongest terms, the blatant Iranian missile attacks. So there is concern in these Gulf nations who are unaccustomed to this level of intense missile attack. But there is also anger that they have found themselves on the receiving end of this as well. Remember back in June when the US and Israel carried out those strikes on the nuclear facilities in Iran, it was Qatar only that was targeted, and that one was fairly restrained. That is not the case now.
You think this is dramatically in the next few days and maybe next few weeks going to dramatically escalate this war?
I think it has the potential of doing so, Wolf. And, what you're seeing is a very large Iranian response. And I think, it's going to be interesting to get the military assessment from places like CENTCOM to see if they had anticipated this kind of a reaction from the Iranians. They clearly anticipated some of that by evacuating some troops from some of these bases that you've mentioned in the Persian Gulf region. But I don't know if they've really anticipated the magnitude of this, because it looks like, we're looking at several hundred, if not a series of 1,000 drones heading toward Israel, and potentially other targets as well. And if you add that, couple that with missiles that the Iranians still have, it could be a fairly substantial response. The question then would be, though, what kind of follow-up will the Iranians have?
How effective is that Iron Dome anti-missile system that Israel has over the whole country in dealing with a lot of drones coming in from Iran?
This is what the Iranians are trying to do, Wolf. The Iron Dome system was not built for drones. It does have some modifications that have been made to it to work on the drone problem. But the problem is that with a swarm of drones, it's going to overwhelm most radars that are associated with the Iron Dome. And that's why not only do they have the Iron Dome, but the other elements of the Israeli air and missile defense systems like the Arrow system and David Sling, but also the Aegis systems that the U.S. Navy brings in. And those are sitting off the coast of Israel right now, and they are supposed to help with this. Let's see how effective they are this time. They were highly effective in June. Let's see how effective they are now.
Joining me now is CNN national security analyst Alex Plitzis. Alex, let's start right where Wolf left off. Explosions over Bahrain. The Iranians hit the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet Service Center. Explosions over UAE, both Dubai and Abu Dhabi, over Jordan, Kuwait, other states there in the region. Just put into context the scope of the response from the Iranians and what you glean from how they've responded and how quickly.
So it's clear that they were prepared for counterstrikes to a certain extent, given that they reacted fairly quickly in the middle of the night to the strikes, because in the 12-day war, they took a little bit of time to respond as they regained command and control and determined what assets that they had left. And they took 5 days to respond after Qasem Soleimani was assassinated. So this is clear that there had been some pre-planning that was done. And as you mentioned, the countries that were attacked here specifically are where we have specific bases. So in Kuwait, we have Ali Al Salim Air Force Base. In the UAE, we have Al Dhafra Air Base. It's about 20 miles south of Abu Dhabi. In Bahrain, we have the 5th Fleet that's based out of there. In Doha, we happen to have nearby Al Udeid Air Force Base. It's not only the Air Force Base, but also the forward headquarters for U.S. Central Command. So all of those locations are strategic U.S. military bases in the region.
I'm joined now by Daniel Shapiro. He's the former U.S. ambassador to Israel. Ambassador Shapiro, thanks so much for joining us. I understand you are now in a shelter in Tel Aviv. Well, what caused you and your associates to go to this shelter? What happened?
Thanks for having me, Wolf.
So early this morning, for the first time, a siren sounded, and where I was staying, we all rushed to a shelter. That's now happened about 7 or 8 times today here in central Israel. The last one, which just occurred a few moments ago, was followed by a series of booms. Sometimes which is an interception of an incoming missile. And earlier in the day, we heard 1 or 2 of such booms. But in the last round, we heard over 2 dozen. So it seems that the Iranians have changed their tactics as the day has gone on, from individual or small numbers of missile attacks to at least the last one being a larger salvo, which they've used in the past to try to saturate and penetrate Israeli air defenses.
Do you get a sense that the Iranians and their missile attacks, their drone attacks, are going after specific Israeli military targets, or just launching them to kill people and destroy as much as possible?
It's impossible for me to know from the places I've been able to be today exactly what they're targeting. In the past, they have put a lot of emphasis on military targets, intelligence targets, but some civilian targets. There are still buildings destroyed in central Tel Aviv from the war last June. So, and because Israel is a small country and a lot of civilian population lives alongside various other installations, and these missiles are not that accurate, it's entirely possible that they could shoot for a security target and hit an apartment building or a neighborhood. So they're probably going to cause as much damage as they can, given the pressure they're under from combined U.S. and Israeli strikes that the president announced this morning.
Clearly a lot of targets for the Iranians in the Tel Aviv area, and good luck over there. Just stay safe. What do you think regime change in Iran potentially could look like? Do you see a clear path to who might actually take over if there is regime change?
I think this is one of the big question marks hanging over what the president announced last night. First of all, I think many Americans probably woke up this morning surprised to discover that we're at war in the Middle East, something the president said he was going to try to avoid. And he really didn't do very much to prepare the public or discuss with the public what his strategy was, what the goal is, why it was imminent, and why it was necessary to take this action now. He mentioned what we know very well about this terrible Iranian regime. Its nuclear program, ballistic missile program, its abuse of its own people, and its sponsorship of terrorism. But why now? And it was surprising to me that he laid the predicate that the goal of this is regime change, because that is not something that can be done just by airstrikes. What he said, and he's probably right about this, is that only the Iranian people on the ground are going to be able to overthrow the regime and replace it with something else. But replace it with what? Most intelligence experts who you consult with suggest the most likely near-term replacement for the current regime is a military dictatorship under the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Beyond that, it's a big question mark whether there is a sufficiently consolidated opposition, whether it could be done peacefully or democratically, whether different splinter groups, ethnic or regional splinter groups, might try to break away from the main state. So it could be a very chaotic situation, even if the president's goal of regime change is successful.
All right, y'all. So that is the last video that we have for this live. I did have some things that I wanted to show from Ben Masilis, but we're gonna save that for the next live, y'all. What we're gonna go ahead and do is allow Mama to come on in, Mama Warrior. She wants to say a prayer that she created for all of us, okay, worldwide. And in these times with things happening like this, such as war, and seeing that our, politics and our government is in such a corrupt place and space right now, and we have individuals that are making things hard for the people. People are struggling at the hands of a lot of these things that are being put in place, and they have a lot of things that they're trying to fight through, and that they have to, get through based off of these things. We, sometimes get a little bit discouraged, and we sometimes can be a little bit fearful and not know what is going to happen. What is our tomorrow going to look like? What are our lives going to look like? How are we going to be able to feed our children? How are we going to be able to pay our bills? How are we going to be able to go outside and feel as though we're safe without ICE or anybody tackling us to the ground and targeting us because of the color of our skin or the race that we may be? There is a lot of fights and there are a lot of things that our people are fearful of right now based off of what are we dealing with in this world, in this country, especially under our administration over here in the United States. But like I said, I'm not the one to say, boo hoo hoo, look at us. No, because a lot of these type of things have been happening for a long period of time in other countries under their dictatorships, under their leadership, third world countries that are having things harder than what we are having it even right now, while we're thinking this is the worst that it could be for us. It is probably 10 times worse for a lot of individuals that live in other countries, third world countries, that have been dealing with these things and struggling from these things for a long period of time. And a lot of times their stories don't get to be told, and what they're suffering through isn't always publicized for people to know what they're going through on a day-to-day. And so this is a prayer for the people, because we are the people, all of us. We are human beings, despite our differences, despite where we're located, despite what we look like. We are humans, and we are going through some suffering and some hard times right now, but we must stay positive. As dark as it seems that it may be, as terrible as it seems that it may be, we continue to lead and push forward with positivity and prayer. And respectfully, that is what we use over here. That is what we believe in over here. Others may as well, and others may think and believe and subscribe to other things, and that is absolutely okay. But just tap into your source of positivity and light, whatever it is that you believe in, that brings you hope, that brings you joy, that gives you strength to make it to the next day when you are dealing with hardship. Tap into that. You understand? And don't ever stop tapping into that, because this is how we see through, and we stand by one another, arm in arm, locked in to fight against these darknesses and these terrible things that are happening to us as a people. We stand beside one another. We fight together with one another. We stay positive. We pray. We keep hope and light alive. And that is how we get through all of these things. It is how our ancestors got through, and it's how we'll get through it as well. And I want us to remember that. So let's go ahead and pass it on over to Mama Warrior. She has some beautiful prayers to say before we end this live. So I'm going to pass it right on over to her, y'all. Go ahead, Mom.
Hello, everyone. This is Mama Warrior coming at you, saying God bless, and that, I love you all. So I just wanted to step in and bring us some calm to the storm. We are definitely in war. We can call it a storm, but it's war. And I don't want us all living with fear. So as you know, we're living through a day that will be in the history books forever. It's February 28th, 2026. And as of this morning, yes, guys, our world has changed. President Trump has confirmed that we are now engaged in major combat operations in Iran. We are at war. I know the fear that word brings. I know the knot in your stomach when you think about our sons and our daughters and the innocent children across the ocean. But I am here to tell you, we will not be deterred by fear. We're going to stay informed, and we're going to stay educated. And most importantly, we're going to lead with empathy. So now what I would like to have you do, if it is thine will and if it's something that you want to do, I would like to have you lower your heads with me, take a deep breath, and keep your hearts high as I recite both of these prayers for us today. divine protector of all life, we come to you today as mothers, as sisters, as warriors of the Spirit. Our world is trembling. The air is heavy with the sound of drums and the shadow of conflict. We see the headlines, we hear the sirens, and we feel the weight of a history being written in fire. Dear Lord, we pray first for the children, for the little ones in Minab, for the children in the shelters of Israel, and for every son and daughter in uniform tonight. We wrap them in a spiritual mantle of protection that no steel can pierce. We ask for a hedge of thorns around the innocent that they may be hidden from the reach of harm. Dear Lord, we pray for the mothers on both sides of this line, for the mothers in America watching their children deploy, and for the mothers in Iran clutching their babies as the sky glows red. We know the universal language of a mother's heart. It is a language of peace, not of politics. We stand in the gap for them today, Lord. Bind our hearts together across the oceans so that the collective cry of all the mama warriors in the world becomes louder than the engines of war. Dear Lord, we pray for our leaders. Grant them a clarity that transcends ego. Replace hearts of stone with hearts of flesh, like only you can do, God. Give them the wisdom to see that true strength is not found in the power to destroy, but in the courage to protect the sanctity of life. Dear Lord, we pray for our own spirits here at home. Do not let fear take root in our homes. Do not let anxiety steal the peace of our table. We refuse to be deterred. We refuse to let our light be dimmed by the darkness of the news cycle. We stand firm in our integrity, Lord. We choose to be the anchors for our families and the pillars of our neighbors and the voices of reason in the sea of chaos. Dear Lord, remind us, our great Creator, that we are all human. Underneath the flags and the borders, we all bleed the same red. We all cry the same tears. We all hope for the same tomorrows. Let us not be divided by the strategies of men, but united by the love of our Creator. We stand watch. We stay vigilant. We remain hopeful for the world, for our families, and for one another. In Jesus' name, amen. And I have another prayer that I want to pray for our military and all as well. Let's come together, lift up a cry for those who cannot cry for themselves tonight. Almighty God, the author of peace and the shield of the weak, we stand before you today with heavy but resolute hearts. We are at war, and the gravity of this moment is etched into our souls. We come to you as warriors of the Spirit, asking for your hand to move in a world that is trembling. We pray for our military men and women. Lord, we commend your gracious care every soldier, sailor, marine, airman, and guardian currently in harm's way. Be their constant companion in the desert, their strength in the heat of battle. We pray specifically for the bases in Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE. Surround our troops with a wall of fire. Let every defense system be sharp, every alert be heard, and every service member be covered by your divine protection, Lord. Grant them clarity of mind and courage that does not fail, and bring them home safely to the families who are waiting by the phone tonight. We pray for innocent victims of this conflict. Oh, Lord, our hearts are shattered for the children, Lord. We lift up the little ones in Minab, whose laughter was silenced far too soon. We pray for the schools that have become battlefields and for the mothers who are tonight clutching empty clothes and broken dreams. We ask for your mercy to rain down on the bloody cities and the scorched places. Be a shelter for the frightened children who are huddled in bunkers, and let your presence be felt in every dark and terrifying hour. Oh Lord, we pray for our own nation and its leaders. Take away the arrogance and the hatred that lead to destruction. Turn the hearts of those in power in Washington, Tel Aviv, and Tehran toward the path of truth and lasting justice. Give us the people, the wisdom to see beyond the borders of the race and nation to the common humanity that makes us all your children, God. Finally, we pray for ourselves, Lord God. Guard our mouths from hearsay and our hearts from fear. Keep us firm in our integrity and soften our empathy. Do not let this war break our spirit or divide our community. Let the light of our shared humanity be the anchor that holds us steady in this storm, Jesus. We trust in you, our strong tower and our refuge. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I say again, amen and amen. And I hope and pray for each and every one that's listening out there or listening in the chat, wherever you are in the world. I'm hoping and praying that you understand that I've come to you with this prayer to bring comfort, to bring calm, because you must understand there is no war bigger than God. There is no event bigger than God. There is no enemy greater than God, for he has all this in his hands. Even this, God has this. And if you just hold on to him, have the faith, keep praying, understanding that he is going to show up. He's already here, and he's going to show out, and we're going to be okay. I tell you this all the time. We're going to be okay. It may not look like it right now, but we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. I love you. I bless all of you. I thank you for praying with me, and I thank you for listening, and God bless you. Wherever you are, on whatever time zone you're in,
Amen.
God bless you.
Amen. Amen. You have any other final thoughts you want to read?
No, just keep on holding on to God's unchanging hand.
Mm-hmm.
That means when you go to sleep tonight, don't be in fear. Know that God is holding you. Okay? And know that God is there for your loved ones, and he's going to be there for your children. And that God always got it figured out. However it goes, the Lord always has it figured out. And yes, I'm saying with a lot of emotion and crying, because I loves the babies. Mm-hmm. And when I hear awful things like this here, and many other things I've heard, yes, God, my heart goes out to them, and my heart goes straight, and my cry and my shout goes straight to God. Because only he can make a change in this world. Only he. And I signing out now.
Okay.
I love y'all.
All right, y'all. So that's all we got for this live. Mama came in with such a beautiful prayer and, some last thoughts or whatnot of a hope for us. And that's exactly what we need when it comes to, these times where we're going through these type of things and we seeing our world is dismantled. We see things are upside down. A lot of it is not making sense. All of these things that we possibly could be feeling. You know what I mean? We have to stay positive. You know what I mean? And so, I can always count on Mama to always help me, and also likes to share with others, even on this platform here, the positivity that we have to keep in mind when we are dealing with things of this nature, seeing them play out in front of us, dealing with them, and actually experiencing some of the fallout when it comes to these things. There's always a praying woman somewhere, I'm telling you. And yeah, my mom is that. I love that about her. And that's where I get a lot of my activism and my strength and my encouragement from. Okay. So as a process, these rapidly changing events, it is easy for us to feel overwhelmed. We are witnessing significant conflict, and the uncertainty of what comes next can be heavy on all of us. But in these moments, our integrity also is what matters most. We must stand firm and aware of what is happening in our country and around the world. But we cannot allow fear or anger to deter our spirits. Above all, we must stand by one another. At our core, We all are human beings. Let us move forward with commitment and integrity, resilience and compassion. And for all of those that are affected, we have to remember to stay strong, stay informed, and let's keep the faith in our shared humanity. And that's all I got to say on this live, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and end it with a bop per usual. And I do have another live that I'll be doing in just a few hours here. There's another topic that I'm going to be talking about with America's Next Top Model. So we'll be getting into that. That's more so, celebrity stuff, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. But y'all know I deal with my politics and what's going on in our world first and foremost. So I'm going to go ahead and end this live off. And on my next live, if y'all like to join me over there, we'll be talking about a little bit of the America's Next Top Model documentary on Netflix and some of the nasty work that we've seen happening over there. And then my mama, of course, later.
I'll be coming to you with some voting information, some tricks that might be out there and some kind of way to overcome that. Because we're going to think forward. We're not going to think, oh, that's over with. No, that ain't over with. We're going to keep on marching forward. And I'm going to give you some tips and stuff about this voting.
Because we do have some voting sessions that are coming up and that we have had previously. And so we want to make sure, with these games and stuff that are rigged with this administration when it comes to voting rights, when it comes to voting and making sure your ballot and your vote gets in the proper place and position. We have information on that, on how to do so, properly and how to be successful when it comes to that. So Mama will be speaking about that on her live. And my next live, which is probably just going to be about 2 hours or so, we'll be doing.
Evening. I'm going to be around 7 or 7:30. Everyone. Yeah, Mama.
So about 7 or 7:30, Mama will be going live about the voting. I'll be going live in about, let's say, an hour or so, maybe 2. I just got to get it all set up. And I do have some things that I will be talking about when it comes to the review of America's Next Top Model documentary on Netflix, and some things that I wanted to talk about with you guys about that documentary and some of the experiences that those people had. But again, getting back to our political stance here, we are going to be okay, y'all. Everything is going to be fine. We're going to keep hope alive. We're going to stay prayed up, and we're going to stay holding each other's hands and fighting against this negative and nasty work and dark work. Okay. But we do it as a people. We do it as a group and a collective. And that group and collective and us as a people, it's going to look like a rainbow. We all are different. We're different races. We're different colors. We have different heritage, different nationalities, and even different spiritual or religious belief. But despite all of those things that are different about us, at the core, what is the same about us is that we are human beings. And we know that a lot of this stuff that is happening and we are witnessing play out before our eyes is not right. And us, we have to stand up as human beings and fight against this as a collective. And that is what we will do. That is what we've been doing. And that is what we will continue to do. So that's all I got to say on that, y'all. Let's go ahead and end it with a bop or a few bops to be, a little bit, have a little bit of fun today. But anyway, y'all, I will talk to y'all on my very next live that will be coming up very shortly. Y'all join me if you want to, or if you're interested. We'll be talking about America's Next Top Model and that documentary on Netflix. All right, y'all, I'm out from this one. Golden is out. Mama Warrior is out.
All right.
We love y'all.
See you later.
Thank you so much for all of your support and tuning in, whether you came into the live in the chat or you just listened from the bush. We appreciate the support. We love you all. We will talk to you very soon. We out. Bye.
Oh, say, can you see? Look up, child. By the dawn's early light, it's a new day. What so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming. Hold your head. Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Through the perilous fight. All the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets' red glare, let it shine. The bombs bursting in air, we won't back down. Gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, it's still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Wait for justice.
We shall overcome. Through the fire and the rain, we still run. We shall overcome. They can't eclipse the light of the sun. Deep in my heart, I still believe we shall overcome someday. Right. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Just a ticking clock in a dark slip pad. But someday feels like it's slipping away. 2020's fixed and we're back in the fray. Yo, look, it's 2026 and the cycle is vicious. They're erasing the progress, making us suspicious. Rolling back the DII, cutting the light, targeting the cities in the middle of the night. I see the ice ages moving through the Twin Cities. Another life lost, no mercy, no pity. They say merit-based, but we know the code. It's a heavy weight, it's a long dark road. They're taking King's name, but they're killing the dream. Dismantling the systems, or so it would seem. From the border to the block, the tension is rising, but the spirit of the people, man, is still enterprising. We reclaim the day, we reclaim the street. shall overcome. We hold the ground. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We're still here, 2026, still fighting. Someday is now. Global reach, but local heart. If you're paying for the pain, you're playing a part. Tighten up. International crimes on a fiber optic line, doxing for $1. Yeah, they're crossing every line. They talk about the gross stuff. I say the youth, but they're hiding in the comments. They don't care about the truth. They want the nasty word. They want the blood in the water, but that's somebody's son and that's somebody's daughter. I report on the leaders. I see the same games, different faces, different places, but the motive's the same. Are you dancing with the devil for you? What you do to them is coming back to you. Pick a side, integrity. Don't let the money turn your heart into a ghost. Who are you really when you hit that post? You see them online allegedly getting a check to put a digital noose around a stranger's neck. Bullying is business, doxing is a trade. Look at the wreckage and the message we made. We're meeting as strangers, connecting the dots, but the soul of the people is beginning to rot. Tighten up the circle, tighten up the globe. Truth is the only thing we need to uphold. The world is watching. Are you dancing with the devil for you? What you do to them is coming back to you. Pick a side. Integrity, integrity. Integrity, integrity. Tighten up. You tuned into the right place. Welcome to the rain. Golden Queen. H2.0. Let's get it. You're looking for a diamond, found a treasure in the rough. Tired of all the noise, cause you finally had enough. I'm here to build a movement on a mission for the nation. Dropping gems of knowledge, killing all the hesitation. We fighting for the truth, yeah, we fighting for what's right. Building unity and shining up a brand new light. It's a variety channel, but the vision's crystal clear. Pushing us all forward, conquering the doubt and fear. Yo, welcome to the Queendom. H2.0 on your screen, where the content's real and smart and funny in between. This is more than just a stream, it's a platform for the change. Time to elevate the game and rearrange. So if you're ready for a vibe that you can feel and trust, joining in the movement is a definite must. This ain't just another channel talking smack behind the screen. It's a spotlight for the creators, building up of the scene, spreading radical love, that's the message in the code. Helping everybody carry up a heavy load, from social justice issues to the laughter that we need. Planting seeds of progress, watch them grow from just a seed. This is authentic, this is raw, this is everything you saw. Welcome to the battle that is truly being fought. Oh, so come with make me unleash the dragon. You've been warned. Yeah. Don't make me unleash the dragon. You've been warned. Yeah. Yeah. Golden Queen Age 2.0. The movement starts now. Go ahead. Hit subscribe, ring that notification bell. You don't want to miss a thing. Welcome to the family.